All right. We are live. And live on YouTube. This is a bit of a nice change of pace for a bit. All right, let me throw this up on the Twitter sphere, see how people are feeling about it. Turn on that second monitor. There we go. We've got Ryan, we've got Kaiser True? I think I said that right. Caleb Brown, Supreme Dorian, Revan, Echo Loco, Hidden Xperia. Yes, it was a colossal mistake. Next question. Yeah, but like, how else am I going to get somebody to click on the video, you know? Unless I pose a question that requires a response. Let's stream Halo. And let's play this one singular game mode that is being called an event. Ugh. Feels weird that we're only getting a beta of the co-op. It does, doesn't it? It feels kind of weird that we've gotten to the point where 343, I guess, struggles so hard to implement features that previous games used to have, that now things like cooperative play in the single player require betas. I mean, that's me being a little bit petty, but considering how long it's taken, well, the game's still not, you know, the game's still under construction. Like, I feel like there's a little bit of room to be petty, you know? All right, let's go. We're almost done with the battle pass, by the way. Rebecca's in here now. I'm sorry, bro, but the game didn't even show no Halo news because the game has no content. I agree. It was bizarre for Halo to be a no-show. Because even Sea of Thieves, you know? Like, the show was more about Starfield. But even Sea of Thieves got, like, a short little commercial for content. Like, hey, we still exist, you know? But it's okay, guys. Halo Infinite got this JPEG. It's a live service game, trust me. It's a flight, says Zero. Yeah, it is a flight, isn't it? Yes, an absolute mistake. Yeah, it's the reason that we're talking about the free-to-play model is because Halo, the store updated, and surprise, surprise, prices have started going up. Week by week, the prices have started to increase on the storefront, and people are... Wait, why are my outlines on? Hang on. Oh, that's right, I reset my UI settings. Okay, give me 1 second. Actually, let's make friendlies. Sunshine, and then the enemies I rather like that. Because I think it's a more, like, natural color of red. One that's a little bit less cartoony looking. Oh boy. Hello, says Michi. 343 don't make enough content for this model. Yeah, it's definitely like a... 343 wanted this kind of like Fortnite... Or, I guess I shouldn't say 343, because it's not like the entire studio is in unity about certain decisions. The live team and the business team wanted this Fortnite-like free-to-play model where the idea is... We release the game with minimal playlists, minimal access to the game, and it's battle passes that keep players coming back. The rotating store. The problem, though, is Fortnite, it's got these, like, huge, monumental events that are constantly going on. And the very nature of, like, a battle royale, it's got, like, dozens of gameplay experiences within it just because of how, like, colossal in size it is. You know, it can go from, like, a game of hide and seek in a house with a shotgun to running across the field with snipers. Like, every time that you drop in a Battle Royale game, you're going to have a slightly different gameplay experience. Halo, though, is not a Battle Royale game. It's not a massive open field with hundreds of players. It's like 12v12 or 4 versus 4 Slayer-type stuff. So you don't have, like, the same variety that a Battle Royale game has. And Halo, should it go Battle Royale? No, I don't think that's the entire franchise needs to pivot in that direction. But it's just, like, the reason Fortnite chose that business model is because it worked for a Battle Royale. Halo, though, it's like the design team and the business teams, they just thought they could slot it in with minimal changes and then it would work flawlessly. But it's like, no, it was designed for that style of game. With Halo is not a Fortnite. It's not a Battle Royale. You've got to come up with a new business model that works better for it. Let's see. Oh, I see somebody, Mickey donated $20. Thank you so much, Mickey. I have no earthly clue what 343's plan is. First, they're a complete no-show at Xbox's own showcase on Sunday, and today, they increased prices for their armors because of an artificial rarity system. The rarity system is something we should talk about. Phil Swift says, tell me your favorite thing about each game. My favorite thing about each Halo game. See, that's a little bit fun. Let's before we go back to the rarity system, let's have a little bit of fun. So my favorite thing from Halo Combat Evolved is the adventure, the sense of adventure that it has. Like the you and a scrappy crew of Marines land on this alien world and you're like investigate, and it's just like this lighthearted, fun, adventurous vibe. My favorite thing about Halo 2 would definitely be the Arbiter. And kind of like the opening the doors on the Covenant and what they believe in and kind of solidifying some of the rules about the universe. Because Halo Combat Evolved was a little bit more like, it didn't really commit to anything yet because the universe was still very much, you know, Bungie just made a fun shooter game. And then Halo 2 was like, oh, like, this is a franchise. We got to start setting rules. So it defined what the Covenant are, what their beliefs are, instead of just being a vague religious conglomeration of aliens. Halo 3, there's a lot in Halo 3. Scarab fights, campaign co-op, that experience at least in combat, or in Halo 3, the multiplayer. ODST, definitely the soundtrack. For Halo Reach, it is for sure the amount of content that game has that still to this day is kind of unrivaled by any Halo game. And then when we get to Halo 4, it would probably be the narrative ambitions and the story that it told. I really liked the story. Even though it's not like a traditional Halo story, I thought it was an interesting break of pace. Halo 5, for sure, the custom games browser and the Forge experience. It was excellent. And then Halo Infinite. Well, Halo Infinite, the art style's pretty on point. The soundtrack's pretty on point. So, okay. The rarity system. The rarity system, I don't think works and kind of shows that thing that I said earlier, where it's kind of like the design team just looked at another game and without much thought assumed it would translate flawlessly into Halo, which is a very different type of game. It started with Destiny, where prior to Destiny, Halo 5 was just like, it was Halo 5. You know, they were developing it, even in the beta, it had, like, armors that you could unlock and stuff. There was no rarity system. Then Destiny became the hottest thing on the planet, and suddenly Halo 5 really wanted to have blue, or green, blue, purple, gold as a rarity system, as well as these RNG drops. And it was like, okay, I get it. You know, you guys play Destiny and you're big fans of Destiny. The problem with Halo, though, is Halo, like, these things are cosmetic. So in Destiny, where it's an RPG, you can objectively say that one piece of loot is better than the other. You know, there are stats to back it up. In Halo, though, what is to stop me from saying the gray or the green recruit helmet is so much better looking than any of the crap that's in the gold tier? You know, that rarity system doesn't matter. It's cosmetic. That's purely your own opinion. And so for them to, like, not only stick with it in Halo Infinite, but now start assigning price points, you know, they're like, we've decided that this is a gold rarity. Not because it's rare or anything, but because we decided not to put it into the shop until now. Like, it's a rarity that you guys have decided. It's digital. It's not like a physical item in a store. It's not like a collector's edition where only a finite amount of them have been created and players, you know, fight to buy them. It's digital. You have as many as you want. So why are you calling it rare? You know? There's nothing rare about it. The only thing that's making it rare is you guys have decided to give players a small window access to it. And it's not just Halo, by the way. Other game companies do this too, and I have the exact same complaints. You know, I see you, Call of Duty. I see what you're doing, and it's not working there either, in my opinion. I mean, people are buying it, but that's, I think, because players have just been conditioned. Oh boy. Damn it. Okay. Let's see, I saw Jerry Hook left and now the prices are going back up. Do you think that that other things he pushed for, like cross-core, will be walked back on since he left? Well, Jerry Hook only left like a month ago, right? Less than a month ago. Within game development terms, like, these things require months of planning and meetings and stuff. And in the case of, you know, large AAA games, sometimes they take, honestly, a little bit too long to get the ball rolling just because of the way that studios are set up. But I don't think they're related. I think this was always the plan, and it's just Jerry Hook is gone, but it won't be until, like, a year from now where we start to actually see new ideas that he was not a part of take shape, you know? Oh, this thing's not gonna spawn yet. Okay. Rare should mean that it's hard to get. Make me get 1,000 kills with a BR to unlock a rare item. More than that, just stop calling it rare. Stop preemptively deciding for the community that an item is rare or something. Let that be a community sentiment. You think of, like, the recon armor from Halo 3. The community would probably call that rare, but it's because of the mythology that was built up around the recon armor, right? It wasn't because Bungie, months prior to release, decided to come out and declare that it was a rare item, and when you click on it, you can see that Recon has yellow colors. Like, you know, its own notoriety is what made it rare. Whereas anything right now in 343's store, or anything from Halo 5, not a single one of those is something I'd call rare. Despite the developers, you know, stating that they are rare, because we gave them a yellow color. Little off topic, a Halo Combat Evolved modding team is crafting a working lobby system for Halo Custom Edition that's already better than Infinite, even with the bugs. That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out, actually. Can you, if you follow me on Twitter, send me a link to it. What kind of sucks is I don't want to be like, you know, Halo Ring Game Infinite bad, but we're kind of at the point right now within Halo Infinite's live service where it's like, there isn't a lot positive to say. I could honestly just stop uploading and focus exclusively on Evolution videos, which, you know, that's a little bit more positive because it encompasses the entire franchise. But if I were to upload, like, a Halo Infinite video, unfortunately, there's just not a lot positive to say because the game has not changed. It's exactly the same game.
Active camo available.
Enemy team nearing victory.
I'm a little curious how you manage to maintain a constant upload schedule whilst having ADHD. Are you on medication? Also, what subtype do you have? So I do take Concerta, but mostly it's because of Rebecca. That's why I've got a consistent. I don't know if I'd say it's consistent, but that's kind of you to say that it's consistent. She motivates me.
Use proper eye protection.
Also paying the bills. That's a big motivator to work. If you guys are ever feeling like you don't have motivation to do anything, apply a little bit of pressure to your life, and suddenly you have a work ethic the likes of which you've never seen before. Hippie Jesus says, as someone that works in QA for a very large BR game, monetization can be changed in a snap. If the execs wanted to price gouge, I can't imagine it would be hard for Halo Infinite to do so as well. Probably, but it also depends on the studio that you're talking about. It can happen in a snap, but with Microsoft studios, kind of like 343, they do have a reputation for like the bureaucracy internally, like the way that the studio is set up and structured, that things happen unusually slow. Right, we're almost done with the battle pass, by the way. Hidden Experience saying branch out. That's the plan, man. That's the plan. Keep uploading evolution videos of various things, possibly even upload videos about other games at some point. The relationship that you and Rebecca have had is some of the most wholesome stuff I've ever seen. What makes it even more wholesome is that it's not like Rebecca and I have worked really hard for the relationship that we have today. And whenever I look at her, I think about all the time and effort that we put into each other, and it makes our relationship feel even more special. I couldn't imagine ever being without her. Popcorn Pop says, speaking to a few X-devs, the Slipspace engine just simply doesn't work when you add gameplay. Some X-heads were also responsible for the way the free-to-play model is, some of which are praised falsely. Mickey donates another $20 and says, if there is one thing I pray 343 bring back, it's their version of the commendation system from Halo 5. That felt absolutely perfect. Give me a reason to play the game that isn't just week 2 of 6 for events. Yeah, exactly. Halo 4, he's correcting, Halo 4. Halo 5's wasn't that bad either. Remember, it was like, you got, like, I mean, it was an emblem that you couldn't customize. Because of course you couldn't. This is modern Halo. We regress in terms of features. We don't expand. But Halo 5's commendation system wasn't bad either. But Halo 4's was like, it took Reach's commendation system and built upon it in a very, very good way. And it's kind of weird that after Halo 4, the Halo franchise has seemingly lost the... So, okay, there's this superstition in Russia. This is going to be weird, but stay with me, okay? There's a superstition in Russian culture, at least the Russian culture from, like, my grandpa's era, like the 1900s, early 1900s. And the superstition was that when the Soviet Union took over and the Tsar, which were kind of like the religious heads of Russia, when they fell, God punished Russia by basically, like, removing their ability to create those iconic onion domes the Russian people are known for. Now, the real reason is obviously, like, a little bit more complicated, why they weren't made. You know, it's the Soviet Union. Also just... Damn it. Okay. But it kind of reminds me of that, where it was like, once Halo began adopting, like, began kind of like branching out from the kind of social game that Bungie had crafted it into. Once Halo began focusing more on like pushing in-game store sales, pushing you to interact with its store, whether it's loot boxes or microtransactions, Halo's lost the ability to just have a progression system. Halo 5 did not have a progression system. It had a number that went up to like 140 or something, I don't know, 152, and then loot boxes. And every time the number goes up, you get a new loot box to open. That's not a progression system. That's a slot machine. And then Halo Infinite, they cut out the numbers. Now it literally just is that in-game store. It's like, why is Halo genuinely, honest to God, lost the ability to craft progression systems? Is it a lack of talent? Is it a lack of, I guess, like, planning? Is it a lack of priorities in the right place?
3 zones incoming.
Oh boy.
Skill available.
It's just weird, man. Like, progression systems used to kind of be a given for these kinds of multiplayer shooters. And now it's like, they're called part of the live service. And at what point, I guess, is like, the game... Are we just waiting for the rest of the game as part of the live service? Like, let me put it this way. If Halo Infinite launched exactly like this and stayed this way, no changes, would you invest time in it? I probably wouldn't, to be honest. The reason that I'm playing Halo Infinite a lot is because, like, there's the promise of things to come. But if that promise wasn't there, and this is the way the game was meant to be forever, no changes, people would probably say this is not nearly enough, man. I'm going back to Reach. Or MCC, I guess, because they took Reach offline.
2 zones to 1. The math is advantageous. Your power items are ready for pickup.
3 zones incoming.
You know, and with 343's next Halo game, if they launch like this again, and they say, don't worry, like, it's gonna be coming post-launch, like, I don't know if I'm even gonna stick around for that one, you know? Halo 5 was shocking, because it was, you know, Halo 4 obviously launched with less content than Halo Reach. It cut a lot of stuff, playable elites, campaign theater, as well as toned way down the variety and the flexibility of Forge and custom games. But it was still, it was a small regression. Halo 4 was still built off the backbone of Reach. But Halo 5 was shocking. That was the first time that Halo had seen a serious step back in terms of features. And so that caught a lot of people by surprise. Halo Infinite, though, I hoped that it would be different, that things would come a lot faster, and things did not come a lot faster. And so it's kind of like, you know, next time 343 does something like this, I'm not going to believe that they're going to get the game up to snuff. That's kind of sad, you know, trust has to be earned back, and trust already was kind of broken. Halo Infinite got stale as fuck, but the MCC is still popping. Yeah, thankfully we got MCC to keep us handy. Hidden experiences, the real reason is they can't monetize them like they can the Battle Pass and item stores, LMAO. It's so fake. There's definitely some of that, which is unfortunate. You got, like, producers and publishers who, they don't play the games. They're purely interested in the business aspect of it. So they're not, like, somebody can come in and explain to them all the gameplay benefits of a thing that they're doing. It's going to go through one ear and out the other because they're business people. They want to hear how it's going to get money. And I don't think that pitching a game to somebody based on how much money it can get is healthy. Like, that's not the best way to design a game, which is start with how it's going to get money. Microsoft have essentially given themselves the unlimited money glitch in this server, but refuse to seek out the necessary talent to make it work. This doesn't make sense. Hashtag make it make sense. There's definitely some of that, but something also to consider is that, like, game developers, they're not like autonomous robots that are just like beep boop, I am now being shipped off to 343 Industries, I have no autonomy. It's all down to like if, you know, they accept the position or whatever. And a lot of these big studios that kind of have these exoduses of developers shortly after a troubled release, like, they talk when they leave, you know? And certain studios in the game industry, I'm looking at, like, Treyarch, I'm looking at Ubisoft and all their various subsidiaries, even 343 and Bungie, they have reputations within the game industry for being kind of like, you know, like, if you want to work on Halo, but if there's another studio that's paying you just a little bit less, but they have a good reputation, I'd go with that studio. So it's ultimately down to if, you know, more talented people want to work with 343 on the Halo series. Now, that being said, what 343 could probably do is aggressively seek out very specific people, you know, pay attention to the credits of the games like the Call of Duty. What I would look for is people that work on, like, the Call of Duty series, or even RPG franchises. Not because RPGs are what Halo is, but more so look for the progression system, the pacing of RPG franchises when you're hiring someone to design your progression system. Don't think about, like, we want to go over to Fortnite and stuff. Like, no, you gotta look for franchises that are known for, like, really addictive grinds. Not monetary grinds, but, like, you know, when a new Call of Duty releases, there are some people that stream until the early hours of the game getting their first prestige. You want to look for the people on the credits that are known for designing systems like that, that do hook players. Scroll up a little bit. What is your all-time best Halo mission? Dude, that is not a fair question to ask, because Halo, unfortunately, has a ton of really good missions. If I could maybe, then, do from each game in the series, we could start with Halo Combat Evolved. It would be either Assault on the Control Room, or the second mission. For Halo 2, it would probably be either Metropolis. Oh boy. Either Metropolis or Quarantine Zone for me. When I go to Halo 3, that's another one that's kind of like hard. Savo Highway, the Storm, or the Covenant. I'm constantly revolving between those three levels. ODST, it's going to seem kind of weird, but I really like just New Mombasa streets. For Reach, that one is a little bit hard, because Reach, unfortunately, I don't think it ever has a banger mission. It's more like a series of pretty good missions. Maybe, what's the name of the mission in Reach that starts with you getting, like, shot out of your Warthog? You know, with the Banshees flying overhead at the very start, you know, and you load the grenade launcher. I know that I can hear the music, I can hear the dialogue at the start of the mission, but for some reason, for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. For Halo 4, it would probably be the second mission, Requiem. For Halo 5, it would probably be... That's a hard one. I don't know, maybe Blue Team? Despite some gripes I have with that mission. No. You know what? No, fuck Blue Team. It would be Swords of St. Helios. And then Halo Infinite, it would most definitely be Pelican Down. Tip of the Spear. It's called Tip of the Spear. Okay, alright. Come on. Let's... Okay, laugh at me. Haha. I'm the dummy who forgot Tip of the Spear. Thank God I'm not as emotionally invested in Halo as I am in FromSoft games, because because By the Rings would it suck for me. Oh yeah, FromSoft games started kind of like unfortunately getting like that. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I've heard before that it's this thing that a developer once told me where he said, in his opinion, it's way cheaper to release an unfinished game and then finish it over the course of a live service than it is to just release a finished game. Because he said basically what happens is your community gets kind of stuck with the game because they've emotionally committed themselves to it via the marketing. You know, and they play it because they're like, well, it's going to get better. It's going to get better one day. It's going to get better. And then most of the development resources can be spent not on creating new content, but on adding to the existing content. And then you just move on to the next game. And through all of that, the community is giving you money via the in-game store. It's like just, that had me thinking a little bit, but... What mission was Pelican down again? It was AA Gun Island. Where you crash land on the island. You know, I count 3 anti-aircraft guns. 3 what? Gosh, I'm looking at like all these armor cores and I'm just like, my eyes are like glazed over. Just like they're all starting to look the same. I just wish I could mix and match pieces because I'm not happy with a single one of them. And then, of course, most of the ones here I can't even access. Why are they even showing up in my options other than to tease me? Since we're playing the event, we should probably rock an event-themed armor, correct? Here, we'll do that. Oh, well, I don't have much to choose from, but thank God so many armors are currently available in the store. Okay. I dislike Infinite MP more if it didn't go out of my way. If I didn't go out of my way to avoid PvP multiplayer modes due to my unhealthy aggressive attitude, devoid of sportsmanship. Got it. So basically, you'd like the multiplayer more if you allowed yourself to get a little bit sweaty. I can respect that. Here we go. What are we gonna unlock anything at some point in this stupid thing? Okay. I guess soon. Here we go. Stream audiences, because practically everybody on this planet knows what Halo is. Even the Martians know what Halo is. I think I read a part of something. I'd rather them take the extra time to make a fully fledged color system instead of them flaunting the BS coding system we have now. They could have monetized shaders and patterns instead if they wanted to. I agree there, but also, unfortunately, the byproduct of developing the wrong system over the course of many, many years is that now that it's out, they have to undevelop it and redevelop something better. And that's going to take time. Q Walter says, never has a game made me yell out a bunch of F-bombs and actually want to break my controller. Well, I'd argue if Halo Infinite is making you cuss and want to destroy pricey controllers, maybe just don't play it for a little bit, you know? Off topic, but what's your favorite Chief Boyardee can? Oh, Chef Boyardee can. I read that as Chief. My favorite Chef Boyardee can?
Please obtain multiple zones.
My favorite Chef Boyardee can. I've never had Chef Boyardee, but when I was a kid, they'd have a lot of commercials for it on Nickelodeon in between episodes of SpongeBob. And I remember over the course of my childhood, with every commercial for Chef Boyardee, I got just a bit closer to finally asking my mom, like, hey, can I try Chef Boyardee?
Roots.
It was slow, but I was getting there. And thankfully, I aged out of watching Nickelodeon before it was too late. I'm glad that I gave in and that I didn't let the marketing win.
Incoming.
Andrew says, not really. I just get excessively toxic playing PvP multiplayer, which in turn just incurs an undue amount of personal stress. Thus, I stick with campaign and PvE. I used to be a lot more competitive, and I'd get, like, you know, angry if my teammates weren't, like, picking up the slack or something, but I don't know, as I've grown older, and it's just, like, so many multiplayer games are coming out. Like, the multiplayer genre is bigger than it ever has been before. It's gotten to the point where it's just, like, the artifice, I guess, of these games. It's like, I don't know, man. It's all fake. If I lose, oh well, there will be another game, you know, literally in, like, 15 minutes.
2 zones to 1.
Even in battle royales, I don't think I've ever, like, genuinely tried to win. You know, I can't remember the last time I fought like my life depended on it in a multiplayer game.
Raucous. Commendation.
Granted, there used to be a spot for gamers like me in social playlists. It's usually you try to avoid the really good guy, like you see that gamer tag and you're like, that's the dude running around with a sniper quick scoping people. I'm gonna stick along the outskirts and just pick off the noobs. And unfortunately, we don't really have anything like that anymore because of skill-based matchmaking and just, or not skill-based matchmaking, but how aggressively optimized matchmaking algorithms have become.
2 zones secured.
Three zones.
I think I had to get 1 kill with the Mangler. In every single Halo game, I have always rocked the black and blue color combination. In Infinite, I have to wait until 343 thinks that color combo is cool so I can get my old colors back. That's the problem that I have. I also rocked that same color, by the way. But yeah, it's like, you know, there isn't a lot more choice. In fact, there's considerably less choice than before because you're waiting on the artist to make the color coding. Whereas before, you could pick it yourself. It's just disappointing, man. It's really disappointing that this wasn't, like, I guess, considered. Because, I mean, when you think of, like, a Halo customization, picking your own colors, well, that's a given. You know, that's just Halo customization. It's not something that you'd ever think you have to ask for back. Like, why would you ever think that would be removed, you know? Well, I guess now anything's up for grabs. Like, we gotta start preemptively saying before the next Halo game, like, 343, we really like shield animations and having, you know, your shields flare up when you're shot. We really like reload animations, like, because anything's up for grabs now. Well, you know, what's the next thing that's gonna be removed from the series?
Zones. Incoming.
High heat. Stand back.
Halo Infinite is lucky. Battlefield 2042 was a dumpster fire. Yeah, Battlefield 2042, that game is a curious disaster. And it's interesting. So I've been playing the new content for Battlefield 2042, and it's about on par with, like, Halo Infinite, where it's just the bare minimum of live service content. Like, the barest of minimums, the least amount of things that you can do. It's just stability, a map, and like 2 guns. And the problem, I almost wonder if like part of, you know, Battlefield 2042 is where with Halo Infinite, a lot of people's problems with Halo Infinite is like, you guys forgot to create a progression system. The game needs more maps and content. Like the gameplay loop people seem fine with. With Battlefield 2042, people don't like the gameplay loop. So they're stuck, the developers, making these specialists for post-launch content, and they probably got more specialists on the way, with the full understanding that they are developing content that the player base does not want and is actively rejecting. Okay, we can do that. Ugh. I hope Battlefield as the series finally fades out. I don't think so. I want Battlefield to come back better than ever. I just want like a good Battlefield game with classes, locked down classes, and weapons locked to those classes. Weapons and kit locked to those classes, so you can't just have anybody running around with whatever they want and avoiding each other. Because that's kind of the beauty of the Battlefield series is it's an example of how freedom, player freedom, like sometimes that can lead to disaster. In fact, sometimes the best gameplay loops can come from player restrictions. By locking players to specific combat roles and classes with weapons that prevent them from operating outside of that intended role, it fosters a gameplay loop where players stick together and they support each other as the roles intend. Whereas Battlefield 2042's philosophy of no classes, have whatever you want, have whatever gadget you want, like do whatever you want. Well, everybody's spread about the map, nobody's coordinating with each other, and there's no flow. Everybody's everywhere. Shots are coming from any direction. Spike Fish Network says, did you see the Halo Fall Guys trailer? It actually bothered me in isolation. But in isolation, it's not a big deal. Let me see. Wait, let me read that again. Did you see the Halo Fall Guys trailer? It bothered me, but in isolation, it's not a big deal. But we're getting barely any content from the actual game. Yeah, and the thing about the Fall Guys trailer is, like, you know, the Halo developers are not making that content. You've probably got, like, franchise teams that are collaborating with whatever that studio is to make it. Like, the actual developers and business team and live team, like, they're still here working on Halo Infinite, but it's not a great look when other video games are getting more Halo content than the Halo game that was heavily criticized for its lack of content.
Meteorological disturbance detected.
Where are you? All right.
2 zones to 1. The map.
Damn it. Okay. It's a good trailer. It is a good trailer. Whoever pitched that Fall Guys trailer should have gotten a raise, because that was clever. That was very classy. Andrew says, regarding title, I'd argue it wasn't wholly wrong making multiplayer free-to-play. It's still possible to make a free-to-play game with a tasteful microtransactions system and make loads of money, but the powers that be just wanted to make the most money. Yeah, it's a problem that I think 343 seems to genuinely struggle with, which is why I want them to actually, like, start seeking, like,
Your power items are
you know,
ready for pickup.
talent that is notorious in the community, like start poaching from other developers and stuff. Like, I don't know, look at Digital Extremes, go after some of the Warframe people, like avoid the big Fortnites and the war zones and stuff, and start poaching off of, like, smaller communities that are sustained by their player base and have free-to-play models and make, like, money. Because I feel like that's the best way, where it's like, you guys have a niche player base, and you're making money to keep the lights on and sustaining your player base. What are you guys doing right? Because Call of Duty, like, those are so fucking big. Like, you know, they've got, like, Sylvester Stallone, and, like, they make so much money that it's impossible for them to sink. But, like, Halo is not a big property like Call of Duty. It once was, but negligence and bad decision-making have quickly reversed that, so I feel like 343 needs to be very clever in who they seek out. Because they do have a problem with developing business models, as well as the creation of, like, engaging progression systems. It's something that they struggle with, and they need to solve that. Because they've been struggling with it for about almost since the studio was created. Because Halo 4, even that progression system wasn't enough to keep people. It was over way too quickly. Because they tried to, you know, again, they tried to just translate the Call of Duty progression system one-to-one over to Halo, where it's like, at level 14, you unlock the battle rifle and the sleight of hand perk. It's like, if Halo 4 had attachments like Call of Duty, and the amount of weapons that usually Call of Duty games have, and the amount of perks and pro perks and a prestige system, maybe they could have gotten away with it, but they didn't. So they copied Call of Duty, and they copied it in a kind of very shallow way. So when players, you know, opened up their Call of Duty style progression system, they were done. Almost, you know, a couple weeks after the launch of the game. No more things to unlock. And because their brains want things to unlock, they stop wanting to play the game. This engine doesn't help. It's not about the engine, it's about the design choices being made. Like, definitely, I'm sure that the engine doesn't help when it comes to the creation and implementation of content. But when it comes to the design decisions, they're just, like, not that good. Not that I could do better. You know, these people are experienced within the industry. They understand more about the way that players work than I do. But just as a player, based off my own observations, like, it's like I'm looking at them and I know that they're making mistakes. And these are only my guesses as to what the mistakes might be based on my own experiences as a player and the things I enjoy in multiplayer games. And it's one of those things where it's like, objectively, mistakes are being made. You know, that's kind of like, that discussion is over. The mistakes are being made. What the mistakes exactly are is where the discussion should be. Imagine if armor cores were the same as warframes, so the player would have challenges to earn pieces to their core. Example, killing 1,000 elites to get the skull shoulder. Yeah, something like that. How do you feel about the 21 weapons in Infinite? Okay. Like, some of them, as time has gone on, I've developed problems with. I think of, like, the Bulldog, where I'm like, that is not remotely mechanically interesting enough to justify removing the pump-action shotgun for. The Disruptor, that almost feels like the asset was designed and the animations were designed before they even knew mechanically what they wanted it to do. Things like the Skewer kick ass. Same with the Heat Wave. That thing's awesome. But it's definitely 343's best attempt. It's their best stab at a Halo sandbox, I think. They've just got problems with how they design certain things, which is like that hyper fixation on what makes a gun interesting is the range that it's useful at. That's it. Just the range it's useful at. This is the gun that was designed for close range. What does it do interesting? I don't know, but it's good at close range. It can't shoot at medium range, where it's like, so nothing. You think of like Combat Evolved, and it was like, what made the plasma pistol interesting? It's not its range, it's that alt fire mode, holding down the trigger and charging it up. As well as having that primary fire mode, as well as having the fire rate be unlocked. So you can spam it as fast as you want, but the projectiles travel. So if you wanted to spam, it's probably going to be a little bit hard to use. Or the plasma rifle itself. Did I say plasma pistol first? That's what I meant. But plasma rifle, it is, yes, technically supposed to be used at medium range, but what does it do interesting? Well, it can stun lock players, it can slow down their sensitivity. It also knocks down an elite's shields in just a handful of shots, and due to the recoil system, you know, that unshielded targets have in Halo Combat Evolved, you can pretty much lock up an elite. The elite can't move if you just keep dumping those rounds into him, because it's not going to be doing much health damage to him because it's a plasma weapon, but he's taking damage, so he's going to keep recoiling. Everything has an extra thing that makes it special. Whereas Halo Infinite, the Bulldog kills at medium range. And that's it. As a programmer, I can say that Halo Infinite's UI feels like a programmer trying to design a user-friendly UI, lol. But I'm sure 343 has the budget for actual UI designers. I'm sure they have the budget for UI designers, and I'm sure the UI designers they have are actually incredibly talented. As is starting to become a bit of a habit in the games industry, it seems to be that like UI and UX designers don't have nearly enough time to accomplish what it is that they plan. So you end up with these like half-finished, half-baked UIs. And it's not just Halo, by the way. Fortnite, that's another game with a UI that I think is like an ugly mess. Same with Apex Legends. Although Fortnite, its UI refreshes so constantly. But I'd say the last time I checked out Apex Legends UI, I thought it was butt ugly and was super slow and unresponsive. Warzone's the same way. That's a pretty ugly looking UI. With a lot of bugs and weird, bizarre issues. Remember how they couldn't fix the, like, you have a new unlock waiting little green box? That's probably because that bug was so deeply buried in their, like, sloppy, hacked-together UI that they probably needed a lot of time to figure out what was causing it and how to fix it. Or they probably had something on the horizon in their live service roadmap, so they were just like, just leave it. Leave it. The UI refresh is coming out in 7 months. Andrew says, by the powers that be, I refer to upper management investor types. Your average ground floor game dev does not want to spit players out of the game they made. Or spite players out of the game. I agree. Yeah, like Joe Schmo at 343, who's responsible for making sure the sheen on metallic surfaces looks good. He has no part in the battle pass, and he is definitely not keen on players wanting to leave the game. Because they're mad, you know? And by the way, Joe Schmo, I appreciate your work, sir. The surfaces in this game look pretty good. Oh, okay. I feel like 343 took over. When 343 took over, they copied games mechanics from other franchises a bit too much. The Halo 5 loot box, the Halo 4 loadouts, etc. For sure, and it's kind of like, you know, well, what are you gonna do? Because even Bungie did that to an extent. If you've ever looked up, like, you know, the development history of Halo 2, one of their biggest influences was actually the Ghost Recon franchise, as well as other tactical shooters. They wanted a leaning system in Halo 2. They wanted pseudo-stealth mechanics and stuff. But as time went on like that, they couldn't exactly do that, and they had to kind of revert back to what worked before. So even Bungie isn't exempt from that. But I feel like with 343 at least, there is a desire to be their own thing. And unfortunately, that be their own thing usually involves a lot of looking at what the competition is doing and not really figuring out what Halo is at its core. I think with Halo Infinite, they are closer than they ever have been before to getting it, to getting what Halo is at its core, which now they can branch out and start making new experiences that they can claim as their own. But I think the big problem with Halo 4 and Halo 5 is that they didn't really have a lot of interest in kind of continuing and extending Halo's design philosophy. They rather wanted to completely reinvent it and do something else without properly studying why certain aspects of Halo work. But even then, I'd say they still struggle to an extent. You know, when I look at the open world of Halo Infinite, like, you know, the last thing that I think, okay, so in open world games, there are Radiant events, and usually in Ubisoft games, from what I understand, Radiant events spawn every 45 seconds. So beyond the player, nothing's happening. The world is deserted, you know, it's barren, and things will spawn in as you get close to a point of interest on the map. And a good open world game is able to kind of like hide the fact that the open world is actually not living and breathing. And Ubisoft, from what I understand, I've read that they spawn like a Radiant event every 45 seconds. That like if you go into the woods in Far Cry and just walk for 45 seconds, you're gonna see a deer, and then 45 seconds later, a car may be broken down on the side of the road, or people with guns are patrolling. But it's every 45 seconds a random thing is spawned. And Halo Infinite does that as well. But you know what it is? One brute patrolling. Or two grunts patrolling. Or two grunts and a grunt mule napping that you kill in under 6 seconds. And when I think of a Halo game, I don't think of like a singular guy wandering around the woods and I kill him. You know, I feel like these Radiant events in Halo Infinite's campaign, they should spark firefights, the kind of firefights that players are big fans of. You know, you see a brute patrol with jackals as a backup and a few grunts. Kill the patrol. And then, you know, report, we're sending in more troops, what's going on down there? And like a phantom comes down, and then it's a drop ship, and, you know, like more reinforcements drop in, and then it's like, we found him, the demon! And then you've got a firefight going on, almost like the second level of Halo, the way the drop ships, or Reach, the way the drop ships are coming in, and you got a fun firefight going on. But Halo Infinite doesn't do that. All of those, like, engaging firefights, it's like, they're locked to these, like, Far Cry outposts, and once you clear them, that's it, you know? And that kind of feels like an example of 343 not quite understanding the fun of Halo's combat loop. It's not like Far Cry, where you encounter a single brute wandering around in the woods, you kill him, boom, firefight over. That's more of a Far Cry thing. A Halo thing is when you're getting ambushed, or you're ambushing. And drop ships are coming down, and you got Marines running around and hollering and yelling, and they're riding in their own warthogs. Like, Andrew says, hot take. Halo struggled to balance shotguns since the sword was usable. Despite gimped at a range, former mostly ended up doing what the latter did, but better.
We have encountered a zone deficit.
I'm not sure if I agree with that. I don't think Halo really ever struggled beyond just maybe 3. With Halo Reach, the shotgun kind of found a nice niche, especially in the Infection game type. If we're going to talk about swords versus shotguns, just go play Infection and you can see how well balanced they are against each other. And then I think if you're worried about swords going up against shotguns, okay, just don't have a shotgun on a map with a sword. You know, it's not Call of Duty. There aren't loadouts. Every map doesn't have to have every weapon.
3 zones incoming.
So it's, you know, that argument of like, well, if you look at this map, there is a shotgun and a sword on it, and frequently the sword gets outclassed by the shotgun. It's like, okay, remove the sword. Or remove the shotgun. I don't even know what makes Atriox so different from the Covenant. He hates them, but does the exact same stuff. They can't even do good storytelling in their static environment game. Well, Atriox, I do understand at least his reasoning for why he started the Banished. The reasoning is it's kind of like this,
Zone deficit. Active camo.
it's an active defiance against religious indoctrination, and what you accidentally end up starting is like a fringe
Active camo.
cult, almost. Like, the Banished are almost more of like a cult, but like a different kind than the Covenant, I'd say, because the Covenant are a cult too, you could argue. With the Banished, they're more about the idea of, like, we don't want religious indoctrination, we don't want this bullshit, like, we adopt those who feel like they were under the boot of somebody, like, who claimed that they were higher than them. The problem now is that the Banished, they have their setup, but they don't have a goal. What does the Banished want? To survive? Against what? Why are they launching wars against other people? What do they want? You know? And God, I hope that 343 doesn't settle on Atriox would like revenge. Because I feel like guy wants revenge is one of the laziest motivations ever. Like, I just miss a good old bad guy. You know, the guy is a bad guy because he is a bad guy. You think of, like, Truth. You know? Truth, there was no, like, reasoning. You know, there wasn't, like, a possibility that Truth would lay down his arms. He was a shithead. Like, a really bad dude. I'm tired of these kind of, like, we want you to empathize with the villain. He wants revenge because he was wronged. So I just want a selfish prick who wants to blow up planets because he's greedy. I feel like that's the best way to make a villain hateable, is just make him a prick. And have him be a prick who loves being a prick. Not a prick who just wants revenge for the thing that wronged him. What do you think of the Entrenched event? Well, unfortunately, I think right now this stream has become the complain train. So if you're okay with it being the complain train, we can keep on moving along. You know, next stop, let's complain about the event. It's not an event. It's a temporary rotating playlist, which is a thing Halo used to have. It had like what did Bungie call it? Weekend something? Weekend Mayhem during the Halo 3 days. Like, temporary playlists are not new to Halo. And that's what this is, so I have no idea why it's being called an event. It's not an event. It's I know very much what this is. I have enjoyed when Halo did it in the past. What I would like is a map pack. Because that's a lot of new stuff.
Improves again. Thrusters firing. Nominally. We have encountered a zone deficit.
Somberdoc says, I don't empathize with Palpatine. Palpatine's a really good example of, like, make a villain like that, man. You know what I want to see in the Halo universe? If push comes to shove and Halo has to get really desperate, and we have to start, you know, like, Halo Infinite was already kind of like, you know, a lot of, like, remember this, remember that from Halo. If Halo gets really desperate and they have to kind of, like, bring the prophets out of retirement again, okay, the Covenant religion is dead. So, transform the prophets into sleazy car salesman types. So they're like, yes, my brothers and sisters, they were fooling all of you. They with this lie, this phony religion, but I would like to hire you because of your skills. I believe in you. Join my faction of New Covenant, where we seek to enrich ourselves through the mining of Forerunner artifacts. Take this pamphlet and hand it down to 10 of your jackal friends, and you will get some of the profit from them. And basically the profits come out of retirement and start a giant pyramid money scheme empire.
3 zones incoming.
Wouldn't that be awesome? You could have the profits back. You could have a sleazy antagonist that you just fucking hate.
Raucous commendation.
I take it there was no Halo Infinite at the Xbox event. There was plenty of Halo. None of it was Halo Infinite. It was advertisements for crossovers to other, like, Microsoft Flight Sim got a Pelican, which, you know, hey, that's pretty cool, actually. Fall Guys got the Master Chief, which, hey, that's pretty cool, actually. The issue is that none of it was, like, Halo Infinite stuff. And before people say, like, well, duh, like, there's a new season on the way, Halo Infinite's already released. Why do they need to market it? Because, their answer is because Sea of Thieves had a trailer. And that game's been out for years. Late night, I have always the feeling that 343 wants many things at the same time in their games, but they don't get anything done in the end. There definitely is some of that where it's like incredible ambition, like well beyond what they can accomplish at their studio. And so unfortunately they have to start making compromises. And I think unfortunately some of that is because they're not very talented at being able to default. Like, I think of Halo 2 and how it was Bungie had this, like, crazy idea of making a tactical shooter with a cover system and stuff. And when that didn't work and all, shit hit the fan, like, they had to default back to something that they were good at. 343 has never really crafted a proper, like, classic-style Halo game with all the bells and whistles included, by the way. Like, and when I say classic Halo experience, I don't just mean core gameplay. I mean the social systems, the infrastructure, the campaign, the community tools, and everything. They've never actually crafted that properly themselves. So they're not very experienced when it comes to defaulting to those systems when their plans fall through. So what we end up with usually is a sliver of a Halo experience that they then have to finish post-launch via a series of updates. Wonder how many Squidward quotes you do in your grunt voice, or how many grunt quotes I could do in a Plankton voice, because I discovered on Twitch the other day, by the way, you should subscribe to my Twitch, I'm going to stream on there more. I discovered on Twitch that this killer Plankton impression that I used to be able to do as a kid, it's still in there in my brain. I can still do it. The laugh is gone, unfortunately. I need to actually, like, work on the laugh, but the voice, at least, it's still in there. The muscle memory for doing the Plankton voice. Unfortunately, Mr. Krabs, I think, is gone. I used to also do Mr. Krabs pretty well, but that is unfortunately gone to the passage of time. They could have added more vehicles and mechs. They could have definitely added more vehicles and a banished Scarab if we're talking about mechs.
Crushing sensation.
I guess it depends on how easy it is to implement into the game, because the Mantis I will sit on this hill that I don't think the Mantis is a very good vehicle. I don't think it really is in the spirit of the UNSC, and I think just as a sandbox edition, it's incredibly boring. It's not physics-based. You can't tip over a Mantis like you can tip over a Scorpion or something. It's always rigidly static, because it's technically a biped under the game's hood. It's treated as a creature, as an entity under the game's hood. So you can't tip it over, you can't flip it, you can't interact with the environment like you could of Scorpion. You know, if there's a barricade in front of the Mantis, it can't stomp over it. It's just gonna walk into the barricade. So it's sandbox-wise boring, because it's just a thing you get in and you get a bunch of kills, and it's single player only. And even sandbox or physics-wise, it's really boring, because you can't flip it over, you can't interact with the terrain in any meaningful way. But the Scarab, I'd like to have the Scarab back. Okay, somebody's being a little bit silly in the chat. Oh boy, talking about voices. Yeah, I used to do a lot of voices when I was a kid. I liked doing impressions. I'd listen to things for a while, and then I'd learn how to do them, and then I'd do my own impressions of them. I used to do Peter Cullen's Optimus Prime. That was hard because I was a child. But what's his name? Gary Chalk, the other voice for Optimus Prime in the Transformers Cybertron series, or the Unicron trilogy, I guess, as well as Beast Wars. I could do his Optimus pretty good. As well as Beast Wars Megatron, but the issue is the grappling hook ruins the Scarab. For sure, the grappling hook unfortunately devalues a lot of level design or encounters, because almost everything can just be solved by, we'll grapple to it. You know?
3 zones incoming.
32 feet per second. Squared. Would you like that in metric?
Think of, like, Truth and Reconciliation. Do you remember when you come around the winding cliffside, and there's that hilltop with the shade turret on it, and you can shoot the jackal that's there? And what'll happen is usually someone will get inside the shade turret and start shooting at you. They have the high ground. What you've got to do is wind around them, but there's a patrol waiting at the base, and they're going to take you on. So you have to get through them, then wind around the cliffside where you find a ramp that leads up there, and you can take out the shade turret. In Halo Infinite, just grapple up there. Who cares about the level design? And unfortunately, a Scarab would not be a lot of fun to fight, I think, in Halo Infinite, because who cares? Just grapple up to it. And if you can't grapple up to it because they've disabled the Scarab, like, you know, you can't grapple on it because it's really slippery. Okay, grapple up to a tree and slingshot yourself onto it. You know, every problem, every combat or level design problem is solved with the grappling hook. Hey, I think we got Kevin Cool X in here. How's your Kevin Cool X impression? Oh man, I need to work on the Kevin Cool X impression. Now that you're in here. Are players getting launched by the hammer more, asks Sandra. I did notice they improved the physics of the hammer, at least the ragdoll physics. I am seeing less instances of you slamming a player and they're like, oh, my tummy hurts, and they just like fall over. They're splattering against the wall now, which is good. What do you think of the Warframe teaser in the Game Awards? I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Warframe player, and that's mostly just because Warframe is very dense, and so it's really hard for me to get into it, because it's like I don't even know kind of where to start, I guess. And every time that I do start it, it feels kind of like a 20-hour-long tutorial. And I get burnt out playing it before I've kind of like gotten invested, because I'm still 20 hours in learning new systems. And it also doesn't help that, like, Warframe, I think this is definitely good for Warframe's player base. By the way, I'm not advocating that they change this. Its universe and mythology is so claustrophobically dense and full of, like, capital letter names for things. Like, you know, the Tenno. I don't know what that means, but man, Warframe likes using that word a lot, and it probably would have been way easier for me to follow what was going on if they came up with, like, a more, I guess, English word for whatever a Tenno is. There we go. Let's keep going. The grapple shot is not as bad as Halo 5 thrusters, which lets you fly across levels. I'd say it might be. In some areas, it might be worse, to be honest. Because the grappling hook, the Halo 5 thruster, what it does is it unfortunately makes, like, horizontal movement really hard to design levels around, especially, like, jumps and gaps, as well as it makes moment-to-moment combat a little bit harder to design for, because at any moment, players can just juke left, right, forward, back, and you have to design the AI around that, and it's just, like, kind of like a big mess. But with Halo Infinite, not only is horizontal movement now a bit compromised by the grappling hook, like, vertical movement now, like, elevation is now no longer relevant. You know, oh my god, the Banished, they're up there, just grapple hook up there. Oh my god, there's this big gap, just grapple hook across it. I need to get to the second story. I need to find a ladder or activate it, just grapple hook up there. Oh my god, it's the Scarab, just grapple hook on it. To be frank, Infinite Legendary teaches you very quickly that just grapple up will get you Swiss cheesed by a dozen guns. Equipment variation is key. Well, I'd say that's any Halo experience. Like, yeah, the hard mode is hard. Just normal gameplay. Just ignore the level design. I don't think that that's very fun. And it doesn't help also that, like, Halo isn't really a game about switching superpowers, you know? It's not Crysis. It could be Crysis if it wanted to, but unfortunately, Halo Infinite, its UX for switching between equipment is not very well designed. It feels almost like you're playing like a fighting game where you have to remember the button combos just to switch to the drop wall. So most of the time, just stick with the grappling hook. You can ignore the level design. You can get around fast. Just don't be out in the open, because, dude, it's legendary. I think it's weird that, like, Halo multiplayer understood the damage that an unlimited grappling hook can do to level design and the way that a player navigates level design. It understood that. It was like, no, players are going to be, like, flying around if we give them unlimited grappling hooks. It'll be fun for a hot minute, but players will start to get bored of the maps and they won't be able to articulate why. It's because they're ignoring the level design. But it's weird then for the campaign, they were like, but for campaign, we should just let them have it forever. I feel like that's almost a thing that you design a skull around, you know, if players want to, like, goof off with unlimited grappling hooks, get the bandana skull. I think Jackal snipers are a good counter to the grappling hook. I'd say not really. That's more or less down to sight lines. And you can very easily just, you know, don't be out in the open when you're using the grappling hook. I do think the grappling hook harms level design more than it helps it. It's kind of the same problem that Anthem had, where a lot of ex-BioWare developers said, like, we designed a game where your primary ability was flight, so elevation was off the table. Elevation had no stakes, because at any moment the player could just fly over our levels, and they found it very hard to create new content for the game, because they Gave the player the ability to just ignore the levels whenever they wanted. How else are they supposed to put that much equipment on an Xbox controller? There aren't enough buttons. There are a couple ways. You do a wheel, you hold down a button, and a wheel pops up. And then you select. Think of like, so what is it, left bumper default controls? You can tap it, and you activate your equipment. You can hold it, and a wheel pops up. And then you can switch to that equipment. Or do the thing that probably Halo should have done, which is don't let the player hold all that equipment at once. Do it kind of like the multiplayer. And that way the Banished can also have the equipment and they can be deploying it against the player. Could you imagine how awesome it would be seeing like a couple of Jackals running out and then deploying drop walls, and now the Banished have barricades against you? And then, you know, you kill them and they drop some spare drop walls that they were carrying. And now you have one and you can deploy it against the Chieftain. Because it's finite now, its deployment has to be more impactful in the campaign. So you could have it be pretty damn powerful. As well as it would give players reason to explore. Imagine, okay, so let's say like the grappling hook, you have 10 charges for it or something. Well, imagine if, I've pitched this before, imagine you're saving your grappling hook uses. You've been trying to climb a mountain, but your grappling hooks are running low. You only have 2 charges left. Well, you see a Banished patrol, and you see your destination, your fob or whatever it is you're trying to capture. Now, normally in Halo Infinite's campaign, you just ignore the brute patrol because who cares? Like, just, you know, beeline for your fobs or your point of interest. But you notice, guess what they're carrying? There's a grunt mule with a ton of grappling hooks on its back because the brutes are going to go excavate something. And the mining equipment they need, it's like a grappling hook so they can, you know, hang on to the sides of cliffs while they're drilling. You're going to deviate off the broken path and you're going to go take on those squads so you can get that equipment and armor up. Then you're going to go to the fob. And because you've built up your resources, the attack on the fob feels a little bit more impactful because you've been like building for it, you've been preparing, you've been gathering resources, and now you're ready to go attack it and assault it. I feel like that's way more interesting. It creates a gameplay story than just, you can do it, whatever, you have unlimited stuff.
We should have zoned.
You know, and then people complain. They're like, it feels like there's nothing to do in the open world. It's like, yeah, because they gave everything to do to the player, and they gave the player an unlimited amount of it.
Thrusters obtained.
Defeat.
The grapple just needed a much longer cooldown. See, I don't even know if that, like, I agree, by the way, but I don't even know if that solves the problem because, okay, so just wait, like, 15 extra seconds and then ignore the level design, you know? A mountain, it's still a thing you can just ignore. In games like Skyrim or something where you can't just fly over the levels without doing some shenanigans, some physics-related shenanigans, like, climbing a mountain is climbing a mountain. In Halo Infinite, just grapple hook over it. You know, it's not that special. Like, height doesn't matter. Never played Crysis, but Infinite's campaign equipment feels like Doom Eternal's. Neat interactions like max drop wall electrifying Wraith mortars. It's definitely a lot like Crysis, mixed with Doom, but a shallow version of both of those systems. I don't think it's nearly as, like, well designed, I guess, as it comes across as very kind of like cobbled together rather than like an idea that the whole gameplay rhythm was designed around from the beginning. Even like the upgrade path, where it's like, I don't know, the upgrade path feels almost like, well, the drop wall is useless. So when I've been using the grappling hook a lot and I find an upgrade core, the drop wall is useless to start out with. Why? And it's hard to switch to because of how bad the controls are. Why am I going to invest like money into the drop wall to make it a little bit less useless when I could just upgrade my grappling hook, which, you know, allows me to ignore the level design and also kind of cheese a lot of encounters? It's a similar situation to actually, like, if you guys remember Battlefield Hardline's campaign, it rewarded you points that you could spend on guns. And arresting people awarded you with the most amount of points to spend on guns. So arresting people rewarded you with things that didn't incentivize you to play, like, non-lethally, you know? And with Halo Infinite, it's like those upgrades, all that does is encourage me to stick with one piece of equipment, because I want that equipment to be even better and more overpowered. I'm not going to suddenly start using the drop wall, because its cooldown timer is now 25% faster. I'm just going to throw that into the grappling hook. Jack Cooper says 343 already changed the name of the Juneteenth emblem, but too late. People already saw the racist term. Racist? Oh dear. What did Halo do this time? E Production says they really fumbled theater, huh? What a shame. Yeah, that also sucks. That, like, that's kind of what we were talking about before, where it feels like certain parts of 343 they don't have a good understanding of a classic Halo experience, meaning all the social systems together. So for them, they view it as, well, it's theater mode. Like, you know, it's theater mode. Like, it's just a thing that we have to make, and, like, it's okay. Is it broken? Yeah, okay, whatever. Whereas with Bungie, they had actually invested and built up the theater mode, the tech for it and stuff. They understood the importance of it, and they went out of their way to make sure to innovate it each release. With Halo Reach, they even figured out how to get campaign rewinding to work, which wasn't a thing in Halo 3's theater mode. You know, with Halo Infinite, it just kind of feels like, you know, 343 is inheriting a lot of things that Bungie did, and because of that, there isn't that emotional investment in making it better than what came before. Andrew says, to be honest, given Infinite's first gameplay trailer, wouldn't have been surprised if scavenged equipment was planned but didn't pan out in playtesting. Yeah. Or if even, like, time, you know? Because I'd assume, like, crafting the AI to be able to work with equipment as, like, a consumable, kind of like Halo 3 style equipment. That's probably time consuming. It's kind of weird that LNG refuses to talk about the nameplate. No, I wouldn't say it's weird that I refuse to talk about it. I'd say it's normal, because I don't know what it is. And if it is a hot topic, I'd prefer that we just have fun complaining about Halo rather than getting into conversations that have a bunch of people yelling at each other, you know? So there's nothing weird about it. But I'm definitely going to figure out what's going on with there, because people are talking about it a lot. I don't want to even know how catastrophic Infinite would have been without Joe Staten. So far as I know, he reorganized and streamlined a lot in the production. From what I understand, a lot of the game was already set in stone. What he did more or less was get it over the finish line. And definitely within, like, game development terms, there isn't a lot that you can remix in a year. Because I'd assume he has to have a couple of months to figure out what the game is and go over the team and the workload and stuff. And then by the holiday season of 2020, that's when it's like, okay, here's the plan going forward. Here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're organizing production. Like, a lot of that stuff has to have already been planned. You know, he can't suddenly come in and be like, campaign, it's a mess. Scrap everything. Atriox, he's now dead. Or this and that, and get the Marines work. Like, that stuff was already in development. It's very costly, as well as very, very time-consuming to completely overhaul something in less than a year. Jack Cooper says they called it, the color scheme for it, the Bonobo. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'll look more into that. I don't know enough about the developing situation, so I'm not going to comment on it, but... Oh, no. Come on, Halo. I just want you to have an L, man. Why is it so hard for Halo to just have a win? It's like a lower stakes Fallout 76 situation. Remember how Fallout 76, its live service content was almost bi-weekly scandals or problems? Halo is doing that, but in Halo tradition, the controversies are coming out with long stretches of nothing happening. See. We have to have higher expectations of game developers as a whole. I wouldn't say that. I feel like our expectations are kind of met. I mean, you know, a lot of these things people say, like, are the expectations too high for Halo? No, these are the expectations Halo has set for itself. You know? We're not coming out of the woodwork and demanding stuff Halo has never done before. We're just asking for stuff Halo, it was a given Halo had. I think what needs to be done is, I don't know, man. I don't know what needs to be done, to be honest. What's the thing that I got? What's the thing that I unlocked? What is this? That's okay. Is that new? I can't tell, man. Whatever. We'll run you. You seem cute. Oh, this thing's green. When you actually run around with it, it looks black and gold here, but it's not. It's actually green. Yes, I liked this. I was excited about this. Makes it look a little bit more UNSC-like. Granted, this gun is not made by the UNSC. It's made by some outer colony, but it makes it... It looks more like what human weapons in Halo are typically colored as. Look, my first sniper rifle coating. Because I'm not buying any of this stuff. Let's see if I got that med kit. Yes. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All of you, yes. I like that Halo C med kit. And it, well, no, that's the Reach med kit. But it's fitting because I am currently doing the evolution of Halo's med kits, or health packs. It's going to be a briefer video, and I think the plan I want to get to is a weekly mini evolution video that talks about something that hasn't shown up a lot, like the health packs. So that'll give me an opportunity, because they'll be shorter, probably like 10 minutes or under, and it'll be about super niche topics that nobody would care about, such as the evolution of Halo's water technology. All right, let's go land grab more of it. What happened with Reach? Okay, so it is a combination of trademark stuff via the Red Cross, as well as the Geneva Convention of War, which is the Red Cross symbol for medical stuff that's copyright. Also, it's used during times of war to signal to... It's like this universal thing where everyone kind of understands, got it, Red Cross, those are medics, don't fire on those guys. Also, it's now like copywritten, you know, the Red Cross. So it's like you don't want to genericize something that's copywritten, otherwise it's like, so Transformers, the franchise, does not use the term transforming when they describe the, you know, the robots turning into cars and something. They say converting, because legally the term transforming is so genericized. There are so many toys out there. They can't use the name Transformers because that is copywritten, but their toys transform into other things. Right. You know, you can't copyright the term transforming. So, in order to minimize the risk of the Transformers brand itself becoming genericized and them losing the rights to it, they refer to the Autobots and Decepticons as converting into robot mode or car mode, which is stupid. Converting is dumb. Don't say that. You guys are creative. You can come up with a better term. But it's kind of like that. You don't want to genericize the symbol of the Red Cross. Otherwise, at what point is it like a thing that you can hold the copyright to? The public uses it.
Overshield inbound. Obtain local zones to acquire points. Overshield available.
This is a pretty cool camo. I'm not going to run it for long, because I'm going to switch back to something that looks a little bit more, makes it look a little bit more like a Halo gun. It's weird, because in Halo, I prefer the brown, boring military colors for my stuff, just because, you know, I have, like, memories of Assault on the Control Room or something, and it's like, that's the look of the UNSC tech. I don't want a pink bubblegum skin on it, but for those who do like it, it is there, and it's pretty cool. In fact, Halo could probably actually do with a little bit more stuff like that for variety's sake. Because Halo Infinite, its cosmetics are, you know, if Halo Infinite wants customization and player agency to be at the forefront, it's not doing a very good job. Oh boy. Relating everything to Transformers like a true fan, LOL. Dude, I'm a fan of Transformers, man. I have a lot of opinions about the Transformers franchise. If we wanted to do a full Transformers stream where that's all we talk about, what are we talking about? The Unicron trilogy? How much Transformers Energon sucks? We're going to talk about Prime. We're going to talk about animated, the Michael Bay movies. Generation 1, Beast Wars, Beast Machines. I've got opinions about all of them. Even Robots in Disguise, not to be confused with the Transformers Prime spin-off. I mean the original Robots in Disguise cartoon, the like one-season thing that was ported from Japan while they were making the Unicron trilogy. I like how he didn't do the Plankton. Oh, I can still do the Plankton. Yes. Soundwave is the best Transformer. Depends on the incarnation. Soundwave is usually the best Transformer, unless it's Transformers Cybertron. That Soundwave just sucked. Even the Michael Bay Soundwave was pretty cool. Except it is kind of dumb that they got rid of his, like, synthesized voice in the movie. He's just like, Soundwave acknowledges. And he's like, okay, so he just sounds like a guy.
2 zones to 1.
But I'm not sure if, like, that like, modulated voice would have, like, translated a bit corny into live action. That's probably maybe why they didn't do that. They thought, like, modern audiences would be like, listen, I buy the cars turning into giant robots, but that silly voice, that's too far. What's your favorite designs and why is it Prime? It is not Prime. In fact, it is not even remotely close to Prime. All of Prime's Transformers look like Bumblebee. They're all humanoid with their car parts as pecs and the little wing doors. They're very uninspired and boring. I hate them. They look like they're desperately wanting to look like the Bay Transformers, but they don't have the budget or the rendering power to be able to make things that complicated. So they settled with discount Bay Transformers. I don't like them.
Shift.
Do the Plankton. What should I say is the Plankton? Kiss players. No, we're not talking about Transformers Kiss players.
We have encountered a zone deficit.
Wasn't Soundwave the most loyal and cold Decepticon? He was. Soundwave was, like, pretty creepy. and that it was like kind of like, so what's creepy about Soundwave is, so Decepticons, for those not in the know, they're the evil Transformers. If the name Decepticon did not give that away. And one of the Decepticons is called Soundwave, and he's like the intelligence officer, and he is known for his voice sustains. He doesn't like, he can't like go up and down and have all of these inflections. He has this monotone, sustained just speech pattern. Sometimes it will like go up an octave or down an octave, but he doesn't fluctuate. And because of that, he's very hard to get a read on when he's talking, because there's no emotion when he's speaking. And because of that, he's very creepy. And he just kind of like sits in the back, and he also doesn't have a mouth. He just has like a visor, so he's just like sitting there and watching. And when he speaks, he can't really pick up an emotion because his voice doesn't have any, and he's a snitch. So when other Decepticons are planning some shenanigans, like overthrowing whatever the current rule is, whether it be Megatron or somebody else, Soundwave is the first to snitch. And so because of that, he's just kind of like, everyone is very scared of talking around him because he's hard to get a read on, and if he gets a whiff of treachery, he's reporting it immediately. Q Alter says, I will only come back to Halo when they add Infection in the Locust helmet, or a Star Wars crossover. Also, Shockwave best Transformer. Yes, Shockwave superior, Autobots inferior. Fun fact, Keith David voices Barricade in the Bay former tie-in video games. If there's a Bumblebee sequel with a Barricade as a rival, I want David as his voice. Yes, the first Michael Bay Transformers movie game, the Arbiter is the voice of the Decepticon Barricade in it, and it's very funny sounding because Barricade is like, he's like a garbage human. Let's see. Who doesn't love Starscream? Dude, Starscream's awesome. Even the Bay former Starscream design, I don't mind that much. He almost looks like a he's like a weird like beetle slash jackal slash dog creature that's like standing upright with the way like his legs are designed, which that's something I actually did kind of like about the Michael Bay movies, is that the Decepticons were designed to kind of look insect-like, whereas the Autobots were a bit more like humanoid and blocky. Which kind of sucks when Transformers Age of Extinction and The Last Knight just threw those out and everybody looked like a greebled up, over-designed humanoid. So it's like, great, before I had a little bit of trouble telling who is who. Now, they all look the same and I don't know who is who.
Thanks for keeping it clean.
Double kill.
Is land grab actually fun? Land grab is plenty of fun. I actually like land grab a lot. It's a pretty good game mode. I think it's a lot more fun than Strongholds, as far as like a Halo capture the zone game mode is. Strongholds, I think, is a lot more boring, and it's kind of like, what's Call of Duty doing? Domination? Okay, put that in Halo, and that was it. Whereas this feels a little bit more like Halo-y, I guess, the way it uses more parts of the map and the capture zones move around. I wouldn't mind if land grab kind of became a regular.
Three zones incoming.
Someone in the game recognized you. Yeah, I know, right? I fucking love it when that happens, man. On the MCC, people usually try to team kill me until I notice them. And then we do little teabag dances. Come on, show your face. I saw him. Damn it.
Camo.
I
Inbound.
missed. There we go.
Voltage exceeded their tolerance.
Barricade also has a lot of lines in the DS games. Dude, I've played through the Decepticon and Autobot DS games. I remember the DS game for the Decepticons was freaking awesome. Maybe not the gameplay, but, you know, I don't know. I haven't played it since I was young. But the story was awesome. It may be heresy to say, but Robots in Disguise Starscream looks hella cool. Which Robots in Disguise? The 2004, was it? Anime? That was more comedy focused? Because I think Starscream was in it, but I think he was like a bat, because it was the Autobots versus the Predacons in that anime. Halo Infinite maps got stale pretty quickly, to be honest. Yeah, the Halo Infinite's map lineup is really weak. I feel like the only real like maps with a vision or with like a bit of passion put into them. Not to say that these aren't passionate, but I'm speaking about like the maps themselves, I guess. The ones that feel like ambitious, passionate, enthusiastic about being Halo maps. It's really only Behemoth and that new map, Cataclysm, I think it's called. I forgot, to be honest. This could have been way more interesting as a map. It's just a... It just, like, exists, you know? I think almost like what would make a really cool map, or what you should probably design the map with going into, is come up with, like, the location and then design a fantasy within that location. Whether it's storming a beachhead, ascending a spire, or jumping from a bunch of detached Forerunner platforms high above a valley or something like that. These maps, none of them feel like they are imbued within the location they're set in. Like, you could palette swap this out as a Forerunner environment and not a single thing would change about it. It would be the same map, exactly. Team Slayer. No, we're not doing Team Slayer. Kill enemy Spartans with a melee attack. Okay, all right. We're about to get cheesy, guys. Trickton says, Bumblebee is easily the worst Transformers film. It's like 95% generic 80s teen comedy, but 5% G1 knockoff. I like G1, but it's not the be-all end-all of Transformers. Sort of. I have only seen Bumblebee in snippets, and I liked those snippets that I saw, but it's definitely like very G1 focused. I feel like Transformers, now this is because the Michael Bay movies actually introduced me to the franchise. The problem, I guess, with like Transformers focusing so much on G1 is that the Transformers franchise is an inconsistent mess because of the fact it's a toy line first. So there was long stretches of time where Hasbro would just be pumping out Transformers cartoons, and characters would have the same names, but they'd just be different designs and different people entirely. And the reason they have the same name is because Hasbro didn't want to lose the rights to that name. So you could have like 5 different versions of Bulkhead, and they all are are all different people, and they all look completely different. So the problem with, I guess, Transformers lately shrinking and zeroing in now is, even though it was due to a very funny and sloppy reason why Transformers had so many different incarnations of itself that were wildly different, it did create a lot of variety within the brand. And now that variety is starting to shrink because everything is being a pseudo Generation 1.
3 zones incoming.
Yeah, I definitely still... So I have not seen The Last Night because Age of Extinction, like, blew out my brain. Like I felt like I left the movie theater with like smoke billowing out of my ear because I couldn't understand how dumb that movie was. Galvatron, I mean, granted, I was much younger then, but Galvatron made me irrationally irritated because of how bad the design was. Transformium, that's when I shut my brain off. It was just stupid. So, of course, I had, like, no interest in The Last Night. As well as, like, Michael Bay got weirdly attached to the image of Arthurian Knights with Age of Extinction. I have no idea why they zeroed in on that being the thing that the Transformers franchise would ride on. Like, what if robots, but big Arthurian Knights? No, I don't care about Arthurian Knights.
We have encountered
Why does Galvatron look stupid?
active camo. Inbound.
3 zones incoming.
Bumblebee antagonists still use the Bayformer designs. Not really, because they still look like humanoids. They still look like giant robot humanoids. They look like the Autobots. You know, they've got a little bit more Greeble on them, because they're, like, for the most part, original characters. But they still, like, I think of the Decepticons in the Michael Bay movies are, like, monstrous and insect-like. Some of them don't even have 2 legs. It's just like a wheel, or it's a series of legs or something. Whereas the Autobots are the ones that take on more humanoid appearances, whether it's because they're trying to appeal to, like, you know, humans, they're trying to look less threatening, or just because of, like, a genuine difference between those 2 factions. See, I don't want this to just become a Transformers chat, but it's cool that all of you are coming out of the woodwork to argue with me about the Transformers. Blackout was the best design from the Bayverse. Dude, Blackout was so cool. God, that was a cool design for a character. Barricade, I could, like, you know, take it or leave it, but Blackout was pretty damn cool. Where the fuck is the guy? Oh, there he is.
Precision objective.
Okay, let me take that zone. God, the aiming in this game feels so slippery.
Active camo. Inbound.
I never feel confident about my aiming.
Dynamo grenade.
It's almost like I'm playing a claw game trying to get my crosshair to aim at the head of a character.
2 zones
Uh-oh.
secured.
I see you. You're invisible down there.
3 zones incoming.
I have not been meleeing, have I? Lethargic Kitten donates $20. Thank you so much. Serious question. If somebody was making a Halo spiritual successor indie shooter, not called Halo,
Team nearing victory.
but does what old Halo did, a sandbox focus, unique maps, and the weps, the whole shebang, would you back the Kickstarter? Yes. Yes, if somebody was like, here are all of the planned features. We're going to have a Forge mode. We're going to have a file share system. We're going to have a theater mode. The theater mode can record not just your campaign clips, but the multiplayer clips and the Forge clips. We're going to have this huge sandbox focus where all of the weapons exist not because of the range that they're good at, but because of the mechanical quirks of them. Here's a list of them. There's going to be 2 factions, we think. It's going to be sci-fi. Like, if somebody came out and, like, I believed it, you know, and they even had something kind of, like, working, like, not just, like, concept art and vague promises, I would 100% back it, because I feel like it's been so long since Halo has had a Halo kind of game, including the franchise itself. Halo 5 right now is a Halo game, but it took a couple years of live service updates to get there. I don't think the Transformers need to adapt G1 designs exactly, but I think they should take heavy inspiration from G1. Transformers animated in Prime look good, but Energon looks like trash. Yeah, Energon sucked. That was so bad. Even when I was younger and I didn't know any better about if a thing was good or not, I had enough wisdom to understand that, like, I'm just going to move on to the next one. This kind of sucks. I think my boost is up. Yeah, let's throw on a double XP boost. I currently have a work in progress design doc. I'm currently gauging interest in would-be support, says Lethargic Kitten. Can you send me on Twitter? Because Favin and I, we've been talking about it for a little while now. We were like, we should get together. And who cares if it never becomes a thing and it just stays as a design doc, but the problem is Favin and I are like, okay, we've got some ideas. We need to find someone who knows how to make a game. You know? That's basically, I'm currently trying to learn the Unreal Engine. Cortana with her Guardian solos, the Empire of Star Wars, who would win? Who would win? Well, I feel like No, that was a Freudian slip. I feel like Cortana would absolutely spank the Empire, right? Transformers Armada had great designs for the toys, in my opinion. Yeah. The designs for Transformers Armada slapped. They were so good. They were very, very good. Andrew Heisen Drive says, in my opinion, Last Night gave us a sweet barricade redesign. Still greeble, but with a simpler silhouette and cool details, like the Punish and Enslave Knuckle Dusters. Also, Shatter is Tommy Decepticamami. Deceptimami. Shatter, she's the Bayverse villain, right? Or no, not the Bayverse villain. She's the Bumblebee villain, right? She seemed cool. I also thought it was cool that in that Bumblebee movie, they were both, it was two Decepticons and they were triple changers, which means they have a robot mode and then two vehicle modes that they can alternate between. And they both chose aerial vehicles and car modes. So they didn't even bother using landing gear in their aircraft modes. So what they did was they dropped down from the sky, transformed into cars, and used that as their landing gear, and then the slowing down of momentum from shifting into a car, they then switched into robot mode and did like little somersaults and then got up and started walking. Like they went through 3 forms just to land. And it was like, that was cool. That was cool looking. Something I do hope, though, that like these post-Bay, not to, give Michael Bay too many props, but I thought his idea of like, well, if we're going to bring the Transformers to live action, let's basically make a Godzilla movie, but with robots. Whereas, even he went on, he became more fixated on like, I don't know, like these kind of like unrealistic camera angles that are kind of like floating around because the whole environment is CGI and it's all fake and it feels kind of more like a video game. I think of like the Bumblebee fight scenes where they were very easy to follow, but they didn't feel grounded in reality because how's the camera operator getting these shots? Like you're moving 30 miles per hour up a cliffside. How's the camera operator doing this? It doesn't even look like it's filmed from a helicopter. Where I did like, at least that first Michael Bay movie, it felt like the camera operator was physically there filming these giant robot fight scenes. And I'm worried that the new reboot for the Transformers coming up, Rise of the Beast, they're gonna not remember that aspect of what made those movies so fun to watch in the movie theater. And they're just gonna have like the floaty cartoon camera that's like flying around in an unrealistic way, and it's kind of detract from the feeling of whoa, giant robot, and you feel more like you're watching a CGI render in a game. See. The Empire will put up a good fight with their numbers, but I think the fact that Cortana has access to all 4 runner weapons, she would find something to win. I don't even think she would need something to win. I think she would just win. Like, the Empire, they'd be like, the Death Star, it can destroy a planet, and it takes 4 hours to charge. We've got some ships. A lot of them. Like, I think Cortana has this in the bag with her Guardians. You know, you just turn off the lights, and they're done. Lethargic Kitten says, the working title is Trinity. I'm making everything legally distinct, but inspired by old Halo and a bit of Half-Life in weapon and vehicle designs. It's interesting. You should, if you feel free to talking about it. I'd be curious to see what you have going on. Ron Perlman is the voice of Optimus Primal in the upcoming Transformers movie. Not to be confused with Optimus Prime. So it's Optimus Primal is a character from the cartoon Beast Wars. His name's Primal. Guess what he turns into? He turns into a monkey. And unlike Optimus Prime, Optimus Primal is not very experienced. He's just like, he runs like a schlubby repair crew that has to follow Megatron back in time to prehistoric Earth and stop him from killing Optimus. It's time to try. Okay, his name's Optimus Primal, and he becomes a monkey. And in the new Transformers movie, he is unfortunately played by Ron Perlman. Not that I hate Ron Perlman, but I'm very bummed that they didn't get the original voice actor back. If you want to know who he was, his name is Gary Chalk, but you might know him as the dad of Aloy in Horizon. Oof.
Enemy team nearing victory.
In Beast Wars, there's a whole duly noted and ignored. Yeah, where that line comes from. Duly noted and ignored. I forgot what it was that happened, but it was something along the lines of, So what I love about Beast Wars is that Megatron in that cartoon is not Megatron. What he is a guy from the future who has a stupidly inflated ego about himself and just calls himself Megatron. And he, at some point, like when his ego is just off the rails at the end of the series and he like thinks he's a god, which he's very funny. Somebody like says like we shouldn't do this because of X, Y, and Z, and you'll lose. And he's like, duly noted and ignored. And then he just like, you know, goes off and loses the battle, and the series ends. Andrew says Lord Hood is Big Monkey confirmed. Exactly. Lord Hood is going to be the voice of the Big Monkey in the new Transformers movie, and it's going to be a robot monkey at that. Baron Kane says, didn't 343's core staff rotate out at launch because Microsoft has a contract worker policy? That and other BR tossed us. That and after the BR... Let me try that again. That and after the BR tossed us under the bus. I refuse to support Infinite. Also, I have UE programming experience. Animation kills projects. So on the topic of, like, you know, people leaving 343, I don't think it's because everybody at 343 works under a contract, but I think the contract labor itself, yeah, unfortunately 343 is kind of like a revolving door studio. There isn't a lot of room for people to learn and grow their tool set because nobody stays long enough. But something about contract work is it's not like this boogeyman awful thing, you know? Contract work has its purpose, and it's actually, like, even Bungie use contract work working on, like, their Halo titles. It's just about if, like, a lot of your studio is structured that way. Baron Kane says BR equals Bonnie Ross. Oh, well, people are saying about Bonnie Ross saying Halo needs to appeal to a broad demographic and not just the core fans. I feel like that's just common sense for any IP. If you lock down on just your existing fan base and make no effort to make it accessible to other people, then it's not going to, like, you know, eventually people are going to grow out and they're going to stop playing, and that fan base will shrink and shrink and shrink. That's not to say that there aren't good ways to branch out, because there are good ways, and the Halo show is not a good way to branch out. That was embarrassing, that Halo show. How's the UI loading now? I have no idea on the computer. I'm playing on the Xbox, and it feels, I mean, like, mostly the same, you know? In fact, if we want, we can check and see if any UI elements failed to load after this. But I am a little bit disappointed with this drop pod, because the game has a lot more issues that I would like to see resolved, as well as glaring omissions, I guess, in the options menu that were promised very shortly after launch last December or November. I think it was October, actually. No, it was even before October. Remember how they said that the weapon cradles at the bottom of the screen were simply too small, and that they agreed with the community, and that a bigger weapon cradle would be arriving very shortly after launch. And on top of that, more UI customization options. What happened to those? Where'd they go? Are we still getting them? I'd love somebody to clarify, because it kind of feels like I don't really know what's coming next, you know? Remember ray tracing? I'm lagging even worse after this update. Honestly, Halo Infinite has the worst service. Halo Infinite's servers exist. When they work, they work. When they don't work, holy moly, do they not work. Yeah, but I do hope that, like, we're gonna see, you know, fixes for desync and stuff like that, because it's kind of silly how long, I guess, they've allowed this game to persist without, you know, like, overhauls done to the servers of the netcode and networking and stuff like that. It still feels like the same game at launch. You know, weird shenanigans, like hitting a melee, it doesn't register, or even just, like, walking around and you can feel that you're not, like, attached to the ground correctly. You know, you're kind of, like, just jittering just a little bit. You know, or you try to reload and the reload is slightly delayed, like your button inputs. Like, there's something going on under the hood. Let me see. I'd rather have motion blur instead of ray tracing. Me too. I would kill for Halo to get back motion blur, even if it's like a cool looking simulated motion blur effect like Halo 3 and ODST had. Or even Reach. No, Reach, people's issues with Reach were not the motion blur. That like ghosting, how smeary the image looked, that was not motion blur that did that. It was an awful form of temporal anti-aliasing that kind of used, it was either the next frame or the previous frame to reconstruct the image and make it look clearer. But what it ended up doing is ghosting frames together. So what you got was a bleed of the previous frame into the current frame. And it looked smeary, it looked awful. The actual motion blur effect that Reach had actually looked a lot like Halo 3's, but more improved. Weapon concept, Forerunner sniper rifle. Think Quake railgun, not the stinky Halo railgun, but with a lingering tracer that damages anything that touches it. That's fairly cool. I'm trying to think of some other things that you could probably do. Chat, give me your chat. I just said chat, I'm sorry. You guys are not Twitch. Don't worry, you're not Twitch. What do you think about... Oh, I have pitched before a Forerunner thing that you get from Sentinels, which is a gravity manipulation gun that the Sentinels use for carrying supplies from one place to the other. And when you pick it up, it's more or less a Half-Life gravity gun where you can pick up items in the environment with its gravity effects and launch them at things. Or even, quite possibly, take the gravity hammer and instead of what, you know, Halo Infinite did, which is just make it another energy sword, but it swings slower, take the gravity hammer and give it, like, you know, you're holding the hammer and it can still do the va-boom, like, impact, but then when you hit the alt fire button, you flip it over, and now it's got, like, Tartarus from Halo 2 gravity effects where you can pull or push objects. I would love something like that. Chief Warlock says, motion blur more often than not makes me nauseous. That's okay then. Just turn it off. A good motion blur. A good motion blur is radial. It's along the edges with the center of the screen staying crystal clear, but the limbs of characters are blurred, so they look really filmic and cinematic in motion. Hey guys, we finished the battle pass. Here, let's look at what we got for our troubles. Okay, so this is my armor so far. You know, it's nothing special, but it's unfortunately kind of all I can do. That's okay, it kind of reminds me of an ODST helmet. You know what that looks like? That looks like what Linda should have following her, like, redesign. That looks like a Linda helmet. Like, it looks like it's getting closer to what Halo 5, like, tried to do with, like, the visor that kind of looks like almost like binoculars. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. That's a chieftain armor plate, right? If not, it's still cool. Here, let's do this. I like that. That's cool looking. The Elite Skull is cool. Well, what I like about the Elite Skull is I like that it's the gigantic, kind of sticky outy shoulder piece, but I also kind of get that from this. But what I do like about the Elite one is that it curves inwards, so it kind of complements the silhouette, makes my guy look a little bit more jacked than he really is. Whereas this kind of like flakes outwards. I don't know. Let's see how it looks from... Yeah, that just looks goofy. So we're going to go... Let's see how the Elite Skull looks. That looks silly. It's too extended now. Someone could probably do something cooler with that. So I guess I'm just going to stick with the walkie-talkie. Gloves. I only have 2 to choose from. But I don't like the knuckles. It's too, like... too connected, I guess. Something looks off about it. So I kind of prefer this because the knuckles are broken up a little bit more. Let's see. Do I have a sense of pride and accomplishment because I finished the battle pass? Surprisingly, no. And I'm in for a long 5 months. Yeah, I'm sticking with the health pack. Please use GRD. GRD is cool, but I just like this helmet a little bit better. Another helmet I also do like from here is kind of this one. That one looks kind of cool because it reminds me of like an ODST helmet. Yeah, but this is my... I think this is the one I'm going with right now. So what was that? What is this? Oh god, that's obnoxious. Okay. I mean, it looks like the original Xbox logo. We'll test it. But the reason I didn't run this was because, like, that fire effect, I know where you're running. You know, even if you're already around the corner, I can see the fire trail. You know? I'm just setting myself up for disaster. And then, of course, this, because this looks kind of cool, right? Let's see if I got anything for this. Let's see. Locust Best Helmet. You can fight me over it. Let me see the Locust helmet. Halo. Locust. Locust helmet. Ew! Ew! I mean, more power to you, man. You know what? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I'm just keeping it to myself. I'm glad that you have found a piece of armor that you enjoy. I wish you all the best. What are these? It looks like an old-timey boxer helmet, you know, when they had like the silly looking helmet and they had the chin straps and everything. That looks kind of like my Keurig. That looks like an ODST helmet that got like Tom and Jerry squished between something and now it's a little bit tall. That looks kind of cool. That looks silly. It's missing something and I can't put my finger on what it's missing. It's almost there, but it's off just a little bit. So I'm probably not going to run that one. This helmet slaps, and I have to constantly fight with the ODST helmet for superiority. What chest pieces do we have? Okay. I mean, fine. You know. That's kind of cool. That's really cool. That almost looks like a classicified Halo 4 Master Chief shoulder. That's kind of cool. Weapon idea 2. A reach grenade launcher, but hold down for manual detonation EMP grenades is replaced with press zoom for Halo 4 sticky detonator mode. That's cool. Dude, the Halo sticky detonator, that thing was cool. It's kind of like a crime that out of like all the weapons that didn't make the transition over to Halo 5, the sticky detonator wasn't it. Like, the sticky detonator was probably one of the more interesting weapons of Halo 4 Sandbox, and they were like, nah, we can cut that. We'll see how dumb this looks in motion. Because I'm sure it looks bad. Let's run this. I really like these gloves for some reason. I don't like the Iron Man thing on the back. What I like is the texture of the glove fabric. That's pretty cool looking. We'll equip that. Nothing, nope. Okay. Man, it's insane how not that interesting a lot of these, a lot of those look. Alright, let's run that. And then, to give me a bit of that classic Halo fantasy, let's do blue. We'll probably switch to red periodically, because I feel naked running around Halo Infinite if I don't have, like, either blue or red gauntlets. It's just like, it feels inherently wrong. Okay, let's see how fast it loads. Good, good. Let's go over here. Things are loading. Things are loading. Things are loading. Do you see how fast this is? Yeah, things have definitely sped up a little bit. Okay, now I'm getting a bit of slowdown. Okay, all right. I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm going to play it easy. But there is a little bit of an improvement. Read the lore for the Forerunner tech. What's the Forerunner tech? Is it my arm thing? The integration of human and Forerunner technology has begun to move from experimental to general issue, though not without its share of technical issues and unforeseen challenges. So that's Forerunner. I thought so. It kind of looks like a piece of Forerunner tech. That's cool. If I remember right, in Halo 4, didn't they establish that the Infinity's, the engines that the Infinity uses, the reason that the Infinity kind of looks like the Pillar of Autumn, but with like a Tron engine, you know, with like neon stuff all over it, it's because those are reverse engineered Forerunner technology of some kind, if I remember right. Semi-unrelated, but what are your thoughts on the Modern Warfare 2 gameplay reveal? We didn't see enough of it for me to have like a well-formed thought. It certainly looked like the sequel to Modern Warfare 2019. I'm not really digging the like action route they're going, which you know, what was I to expect? In fact, it's kind of like history coming full circle, where Call of Duty 4 was, I mean, it was an action game, but Call of Duty 4 was still it was trying to give off the impression that it was still kind of like a military experience. Whereas Modern Warfare 2 was the game that was like, and now we're a Tom Cruise action movie. And the Modern Warfare 2 Modern Warfare 2, not to be confused with Modern Warfare 2, the new one, the new Modern Warfare 2, it looks like its history is a giant halo, a giant circle. And the new Modern Warfare 2 looks also like it's moving in the less of the military route and more of the action movie route. Which disappoints me, but they probably have a little bit more freedom with that, because Modern Warfare 2019, they couldn't do a whole lot, because they were trying to be authentic to like real world like military conflict without having anything to say politically, which you can't do that. So it was very clear that they had some restrictions. So I guess if you're going in the cartoon action movie route, you can tell more of a story, I guess. Oh yeah, and the new Call of Duty is also getting a Forge mode. Dude, if Forge for Halo Infinite gets delayed and Call of Duty launches with a Forge mode before Halo Infinite, like God, you know. Damn it, we're gonna lose this match, aren't we? It's okay, if I lose this match and don't do well, then the skill-based matchmaking will get me into a more fun lobby. The Spartan Ops has the entire side plot where the Infinity's engines being Forerunner are relevant. That's right! That's right. I thought it was just Forerunner shenanigans that made the Infinity's engine shut down. Like, just Forerunner tech can do that. But you're right, it's because the Infinity's engine was... Okay. I should, like, hide and try to get some melee kills, right?
3 zones incoming.
Oh god. Okay. Thoughts on Starfield? I'm already liking the gun models. Starfield looks pretty good. It's Bethesda. And after Fallout 76, I will be cautious. I didn't watch all of the reveal. I just watched snippets that people uploaded online, but please tell me Starfield does not have a multiplayer integration of some kind. I already know I'm a little bit worried about the procedural generation of, like, some planets. Like, that was already like, oh no. But from what I understand, it's more of, like, an optional side thing. Like, there are curated open worlds that are, like, where the main content, for lack of a better term, comes from.
Camo inbound. Active camo available.
So I see a lot of people doing the, like, number company bad, number company ruined Halo. Regardless of how you feel about the series right now, what I encourage you guys to do is, instead of number company bad, because they're not going to listen to that. They're going to joke. They're going to say, like, oh god, you know, that guy's just being toxic. Number company bad, we get it. Be very specific. Where'd the communication go? We want more information. What are you guys doing over there? You're not communicating enough. Be specific about the communication, the transparency, the openness, and demand a commitment to ensure that these kind of problems never happen again with the Halo series. If you can focus on a singular message, which is we want your promise that you're committed to Halo Infinite and that you will get it up to reach in terms of parity. Did you see the new Sonic Frontiers gameplay? It was actually pretty cool looking. Oh man, we're going to turn this into a Sonic stream, are we? Sonic Frontiers is a game, technically. But I am a Sonic fan. So I have a lot of thoughts about the Sonic franchise, including the bad Sonic games. Sonic Frontiers is frustrating me because there are things that I really like about it, and there are things where I'm like, we were this close, you know, to greatness, this close. The open world concept is cool. What's not cool is the core gameplay that they're doing, the boost formula, where you press a button and Sonic immediately gets to max speed. And that running downhill or uphill doesn't seem to impact momentum at all. Could you imagine how freaking awesome an open world Sonic game would be if it had a really in-depth momentum system? Like the classic games translated into 3D. Like if you're running down a hill, you run faster, 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 and then you could roll into a ball and you could actually gain a lot of speed and use that to launch yourself across the level. That would be freaking awesome. And it seems like they're not doing that. Your speed is more or less fixed. And if you want to hit max speed, there is a boost button you can press. A sprint button, if you will. And that's frustrating the hell out of me.
Zones incoming.
Yes! Okay. I can't believe I... Damn it! I almost got away with surviving that gunfight. The UI and gunplay is literally Fallout 4, says somebody in response to Starfield. I'd say, is that bad? Fallout 4's gameplay is by no means, like, its shooting is by no means, like, amazing. But it's also not, like, the worst thing on planet Earth. And I guess it's like, if it works, stick with it. And hopefully the RPG systems are way better this time around. I'm generally not against the idea of reusing stuff, where it's like, okay, if they're reusing the Fallout 4 combat loop because they're focusing on all of these other systems that are super innovative for, like, a Bethesda RPG, okay, don't change the gameplay. It's like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, where it was like, but Fallout New Vegas has the same exact gameplay. I think this season's armor kind of sucks. It's okay. I wouldn't say it sucks. It's not my cup of tea, but it's not bad. It's not bad at all. There are people that are digging this aesthetic. The problem is there's not enough of it because of the damn armor core system. There's that artificial sense that there's not enough to customize. Damn it. Explore, loot, repeat. Very little substance, says Lethargic. Depends, I guess. Little substance narratively, yes, I'd agree. But little substance in terms of, like, gameplay experiences, and I guess, like, those kind of, like... You think of it kind of like, okay, Fallout 4 has, like, so many dungeons to loot and places to shoot guys in that it wasn't until I began properly clearing up the map when I realized how bad the story was and how little I actually cared about the story. Like, Fallout 4, for all intents and purposes, I think it's a looter shooter, and I think given the kind of game that it's going up against, I think I would take Fallout 4 over Borderlands any day of the week. Any day of the week, I thought Fallout 4's loot, shoot, rhythms were more engaging. And I think Fallout 76, from when I played of it a few years ago, it is a bad video game. But the worst part about it was not the thing that it copped from Fallout 76, or from Fallout 4, which was the loot and shoot combat rhythm. Or gameplay loop, I guess I should say. I just hate saying gameplay loop. I always try to avoid it, because I feel like that term is way overused. I did notice the colored undersuits are making their way into Halo Infinite. Yeah, there's a couple colored undersuits now. There were even some colored gloves. My hope and my dream is that one day Halo Infinite has all of the different gloves from the different series. I want to see an authentic recreation of the Halo 3 gloves, complete with how, like, greebly and chunky they look. Or not greebly, but chunky, you know. I want to see the Combat Evolved gloves. It would be super awesome as well if they were low res, too. Like, if they were super polygonal looking. As well as those, like, Halo 5 gloves. And the Sam Raimi Spider-Man Halo 4 gloves. It's also probably too late into the game's lifespan to say anything, but I feel like Infinite's time to kill is way too fast. Yeah. Well, I think the problem with Halo Infinite is that it gives you a super lethal, easy-to-use ranged weapon from spawn that is fully automatic with a recoil that is incredibly easy to control. It's like, for all of, you know, people's problems with BR starts, It's like, at least BR starts, there's that predictable burst. And it's not, you can't just hold down the trigger. With Halo Infinite, it's like, you spawn and you're immediately, bah, 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 like shooting people from medium to semi-long range. And even if you're not getting kills, you're dealing damage at a range that I think is kind of like a little bit crazy for a weapon that's so easy to use from spawn. I miss that old social games philosophy where it was the ranged weapon that's ranked. For social, because you want players to be having a very casual experience. You want to spawn them with something that's super close range. That way you can move across the map without feeling like you're being peppered from every angle.
Acquire points. Overshield available.
3 zones incoming.
Just throw a grenade through there. There we go. I think the AR is really good for social. I think the AR used to be really good for social. I think this one is more competitive. It's got a lot of range. It's got a huge magazine. It's got a pretty good fire rate, and it deals a lot of damage and has a headshot multiplier. I think a true social experience, you want something kind of like SMGs, where it's like, you can't really shoot far. If you want to shoot far, find a gun. It's like, basically, you start players off with the necessities, which is like teaching them the golden triangle. You can shoot your weapon, but that's not nearly enough. You got to throw your grenades, you got to melee and stuff. And if players actually want to, start getting kills with their gun, well, find a weapon that's better than the weapon you spawned with, like the battle rifle. Or I guess the mangler. But I just feel like the assault rifle, it's a little bit too great. Like, I feel like I shouldn't have been able to kill that guy like that. My assault rifle shouldn't have that range. And I feel like he should have had the wiggle room to escape. Same like right there. There we go, he's down there. Thoughts on Evil Spartans? For gameplay? For gameplay, no, but for story stuff, like books, comics, and stuff, it's interesting as an idea.
Your power items are ready for pickup.
Double kill.
Oh boy. That health kit is tripping me out, because every time there's an explosion and there's like debris everywhere, I do a double take, because I think that was a health pack that just got thrown into the air. Hello, I see you over there. Come on over. Capture point is warm.
2 zones to 1. The math is advantageous.
Favin talked about the AR being too strong, putting too much pressure on the victim and making the game feel sweaty. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if you want Halo to feel less sweaty, sacrifices need to be made. And one of them is like, it's no coincidence that Halo began feeling very sweaty when they made the AR way easier to get kills with. Not better, easier to get kills with, because I think there is a difference. I would not call the AR better. I would say it's easier now.
3 zones incoming.
And yeah, and I feel like there would be a lot more room to breathe if the AR wasn't so easy to just shoot downrange. Because even if it's not killing people, it is putting pressure on people at a range that I think is kind of like inappropriate for an automatic weapon. At least one like this that you get from spawn. Let's go this way. And the battle rifle, that's another story entirely. Infinite's battle rifle's got a lot of problems, too.
Power items order confirmed.
Favorite Halo weapons, says Blaster. See, that's a fun discussion to be having. So my favorite Halo weapons... Come on. Well, at least I got that overshield down for my teammate. My favorite Halo weapons are... I like the Combat Evolved Sniper Rifle, because I like the way it just has, like, no aim assist at all when firing from the hip. So whenever somebody does get kills with it at close range, it's like, you know, hats off. You earned that kill. That was really hard to do. I couldn't do it. I like the Combat Evolved Plasma Rifle as well. I also like the Combat Evolved Assault Rifle. I feel like it was probably the best version of the Assault Rifle in the series. Like, the most appropriate, I guess. Trying to think of some other things. I like the Halo 3 Gravity Hammer. I like the Sticky Detonator.
3 zones incoming.
I like the Reach Shotgun quite a bit. Trying to think of some other things. I like the Halo 3 or Halo 2, I guess, Brute Shot. The Ravager is also a little bit cool. It's just got a couple of problems that I'd tweak. Oof. Needler. The Combat Evolved Needler is awesome. I like that thing because it's deceptive in how actually good it is. The Needler in Combat Evolved, it tracks things beyond the red reticle range. So in some instances, like think of 2 Betrayals, you know, after you kill the Sentinels flying around, if you had a Needler and you open up the door and you know at the other end of that huge Forerunner hallway, how there's like those elites and the grunts come in to get you, and then the sentinels come down from the ceiling. Well, if you started firing your needler, all those needles would travel across the hallway and home in on something. Like, it's got a lot of range, which means in levels kind of like the library, if you are getting just like, you're up to your ass in infection forms and little crawly spiders, just fire your needler into the air. They'll find a target, and then when they explode, they'll take out the whole swarm with them, because that's the way they work. Like, the Combat Evolved Needler was awesome, man. You could just fire and forget. The Reach Noob Tube was one of my favorites. Yeah, the Reach Noob Tube was cool as well. Favorite new weapon in Halo Infinite? Oh, man. Only one? Because here's the thing, for all of my issues with Halo Infinite, it did introduce some things that I actually really like. The Heat Wave is awesome. That thing is so cool. It's a good idea for a Forerunner weapon. Okay. It's a good idea mechanically. I'm still not a fan of, like, this ancient alien race that is more advanced than we could ever know or understand has built a weapon that looks like a human 21st century shotgun that can fit cleanly into the hands of a human. Like, I think it needs to look more alien and kind of unrecognizable. The Heat Wave's awesome. I love it mechanically. The Ravager, minus a couple issues I have with it, that's also a cool idea for a weapon. How many Halo books do you have? It's more than 10. Equipment concept, a deployable man cannon. Tap to deploy forward launching cannon. Hold to deploy upwards launching cannon.
Land grab.
That is such a cool idea. That is so cool. You can deploy the angle, and there you go. You don't need a gravity lift anymore. You've created one yourself. That's cool. EMK says 343 needs to address players getting punished in competitive because teammates keep dropping out. Shouldn't get deranked because 3 versus 4. I agree. Yeah. 343. They gotta, like,
3 zones incoming.
you can't declare yourself a live service and then not have the manpower and the infrastructure to keep up with the demands of a player base that needs, you know, constant fixes, constant tweaks. You got to treat it like a service. Does that mean that there needs to be a customer support for Halo Infinite? No. Because I think the developers should get the game into a state where there is not that need, but it feels sometimes like the issues that Halo Infinite has, it's like, goddamn, we're really at the point where we need customer support for a video game.
3 zones.
The Cinder Shot rule. Cinder Shot's also cool. I like the Cinder Shot quite a bit as well. The repulsor is cool too. There is a bit of me that is very salty that the repulsor, essentially, the reason it's cool is because it stole the Halo 3 gravity hammer's mechanics. Instead of attaching it to the gravity hammer, what if we had a thing that players could, like, launch objects with, and even launch themselves if they jump when they use it? You know, a thing that, like, manipulates gravity. We could even attach it to something, like, that they can hold. Not ranged, though, because we don't want players shooting things. Perhaps, like, a pipe or a hammer of some kind. I'm a little bit salty that the repulsor stole the gravity hammer's abilities, but the repulsor is awesome.
Active camo.
Dude, be careful. The sword kills don't count for melee challenges. You got it, boss. Oh, damn it. I was about to melee that guy. And thank you for reminding me about the melee kills, because I keep getting distracted. Oh, God. Damn it. Okay. To be honest, the gravity hammer hasn't been the same since Halo 3. Yeah, the gravity hammer unfortunately peaked in its early introduction with Halo 3 because it had plenty of knockback on the player when you use it, plenty of knockback on the environment when you used it, and it's kind of no surprise why Griff Ball has kind of like struggled since Halo 3, at least as far as like the pros for Griff Ball are concerned. Because every game, it's like something gets removed. And then the next game, well, that thing that got removed gets added back, but something else gets removed. And it's like, the Griff Ball community is like, it's like they're just like, please, like, it's not that hard, please. Stop designing the gravity hammer to be a melee weapon to get kills with in social. Let it be a tool mostly designed around its physics manipulation abilities. Can you get kills with the Halo 3 gravity hammer? Yes, you can. You can get kills. It's hard, but being hard doesn't mean being bad. And I'd say the existence of Griff Ball is more than enough to justify the gravity hammer existing like it did in Halo 3. Because right now, you know, I don't know how the Griff Ball community is going to be able to get going with the infinite gravity hammer. Damn it. Okay.
For cleanup.
The Commando would be better with a little bit more ammo, in my opinion. Well, I think the Commando, instead of a little bit more ammo, make it a little bit more interesting. I'd like to see the Commando have an alt-fire mode. Like, when you scope in, let it switch to single shot. And then when you hip fire, then it can be fully auto. And then you got the shallow clip size, which is really problematic. Well, that's kind of because that fully automatic fire, that's more or less a last resort kind of thing. You're not, honest to God, supposed to run around with it. That's more like if you get caught by surprise. It's supposed to be more of a marksman type thing. And you scope in, boom, it becomes single shot. That would be cool. At least to me. Wait, did I finish the event? I finished the event. Okay, alright. Mr. Squid says, I feel like when Jerry Hook was at 343, he was fighting to have the prices lowered, and now that they got him fired, they are slowly raising the prices back up. We don't know enough to comment, but I do know that the prices were being raised long before. Like, or the prices being set like this, they're usually a decision that's made long before, at least in companies like 343. I think it's a little bit too soon to say that it is directly because he's gone. Pretty much turning the Commando into the Halo 4 light rifle.
Obtain local zones to
I guess just way more interesting, because not even that, I'd say it's almost like closer to the... Nah, I don't even know what it's close to. I can't think of an analog, because in hipfire it's fully auto, and scoped in it's semi-auto. Where the Halo 4 light rifle, that thing, from what I remember, it was more or less just like... It was more or less like scope in, and your shots do more damage. Hipfire, they do less damage. It was something weird like that. I know it's technically a burst, but the bursts are so fast that you could just say it's semi-auto.
Free zones incoming.
And yes, like Infinite's man cannons, you can launch vehicles and projectiles like the skewer shots with the portable man cannon. Envisioned it for my Arbiter DLC. Dude, that is such a damn good idea, like portable man cannons that you can deploy on command. Damn it, I just want to get kills, man, with the melee attack, because the challenges told me to.
Free zones incoming.
William B. says, it's weird how the community is treating Jerry as a martyr. I don't think pointing a finger has any use in this combo. Yeah, it's definitely, like, you know, these things are not because of one person. Choices like these usually involve a group of people. And saying, it was him, like that,
active camo. Inbound.
it was him, and him, and him, and her, and her, and him, and her. You know, it's a group of people. It's not just one person, usually, who's involved in these kinds of decisions.
Camo available.
Granted, as head of Live, you know, probably the vision for Halo Infinite, the way it launched, that was not very smart to bank, you know, put all your chips into the Battle Pass basket.
Free zones incoming.
Squally DeBean says, hi, developer here. A single person leaving a company will rarely have a significant impact on game development. And never this quickly. Jerry leaving didn't increase the prices. Yeah, these things are usually discussed like months in advance. Because they've also got to coordinate the shop and its rotations with events that are going on, as well as like marketing and stuff like that. Like, it's all got to be planned. And if something does change, even that has to be planned. And you've got to get a whole bunch of different departments in on it to see if the change will not shake the boat too much. And if it will not like back up production for things that you've planned a couple of months from now, you know? There definitely was some passion for this game, but executive decisions make it feel like it was more business-oriented. That's fair. That's fair, I'd say.
The enemy has the majority.
It's unfortunate that Halo Infinite feels like a game that was almost crippled by astonishingly bad direction from a business standpoint. It had the love there, it had the passion there, but the powers that be that decided Fortnite, limited content, 4 playlists, and a battle pass, like, that kind of derailed all the incredible content that the game does have. And now we have to kind of sit around and wait for corrections for the mistakes that were made in kind of the structure of the game.
Suggestion.
hide.
Free zones incoming.
From my point of view, the Commando is a fully auto carbine with Bloom. Light Rifle is a hybrid BR DMR depending on zoom. Stalker Rifle is a non-powered weapon beam rifle. The Stalker Rifle almost reminds me of a DMR. Like just the way that it kind of like functions. Yes! Give me that melee attack. I don't know how many I have to do left, and I am so thirsty. I'm gonna get myself something to drink after this game. Chris R says, I think Microsoft in general has problems supporting live service games. Sea of Thieves took years to get in a good state. From what I understand, a common criticism of Microsoft is ironically something that I think would surprise people. I've heard that Microsoft is very hands-off with their studios, extremely hands-off. It's kind of like, you guys do whatever you think makes us money. And usually with like a blank check and kind of as much freedom as you can think, that's usually a recipe for game development disaster. Because what'll happen is, like, well, if you tell an artist to keep creating, they're never gonna stop. They're never gonna find a stopping point. And so a lot of, you know, Microsoft Game Studios games, they struggle to find a vision during development because they have way too much freedom than they know what to do with. And usually by the end of development, it's like, oh crap, and they kind of struggle to get something together. Whereas if you basically were told from right here, like, okay, we signed the deal with your studio, we like the pitch, we want this thing out in 3 years, go. Like, that time crunch, we gotta get this done fast, you know? And so you kind of land on the vision a lot quicker. Oh, thank you, honey. I love you. She got me water. She got me water, guys. I love you. I love you. I'm your biggest fan. What's a good what will I customize my armor? What is a good playlist to get melee kills in? Mark to Shame says, short answer is yes. Well, this is the best 343 has made. It falls way short of Reach in 3. Yeah, I'd agree there. H2O is really good, you know? Like, just water. I don't know, just something to think about. Without it, I'd literally be dead. That's pretty cool looking. I'll throw that. I like that. See, that looks a little bit more like... That looks a little bit more appealing to me than, like, kind of like this military green look. Usually what comes down to my customization is trying to find something that it's like that Halo instinct. Everybody has their own version of what they think Halo should look like, and so it's up to you. It's purely down to personal preference what you think looks a little bit more Halo-y. But I try to make sure that I color my things with, like, in line with what I'm expecting. Here, we're gonna go with this. Unfortunately, I don't have much to choose from with the Scorpion. So let's go to the weapons bench and let's start customizing the colors. I've seen the DMR comparisons with the Stalker Rifle. The precedent is there, though the 2 zoom levels / pinpoint accuracy make it a scary cross-mapping gun. That's definitely true. I get that. I get that. Yo, LNG, you gonna do a Hunters video? That's the plan. Gonna do an evolution of all the bipeds of the Halo series, including the Hunters. The Hunters have come to our aid, Arbiter. They will fight by our side. We'll run that coding. This coding's like old reliable for me. I like the way it looks on the assault rifle. Here, I've had enough fun with this. Let's get this back to let's get that back to normal. Here, I guess we'll do black BR for a little bit. I freaking love the commando with this black coating. Like, that's awesome. So we'll keep that there. Sniper rifle, let's get it back to black. Anything for the bulldog? Nope, no, of course not. Anything for this? Nope, nope, of course not. Yeah, let's get the keystone off. The Halo show, I was willing to give it. I was willing to see what it was up to, but unfortunately, the Halo show was up to some nonsense. Let's also turn this off. I don't want to force another player to see my kill effects. There we go. All right, there we go. All right, I think I'm good to go. Rumble Pit is pretty good. Okay, that's what I was thinking, because it's free to play, right? Or free to play. Of course the game's free to play. I mean, the Rumble Pit is free for all. Yes, I love water too. That thing comprises 70% of our bodies. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? You know? Like, without water, I'd be dead. Doesn't it kind of suck that we're like a phone that constantly needs to be charged? We're like a giant biological thing that constantly needs fuel, otherwise we'll just stop working. Can't I just persist indefinitely? That sucks that after, like, I mean, I love yummy water, but that's because my brain is hardwired to love yummy water to encourage me to drink it, because if I don't drink it, I'll die. Halo Infinite was like Back 4 Blood. It was hyped and compared to the old thing, yet it did things that leave your head scratching. Yeah, right? God, Back 4 Blood, that game breaks my heart. Oh god. Oh god. Okay, we're not making any melee kill progress here, unfortunately. Yeah, Back 4 Blood is a game that kind of broke my heart. It's a game that also made me a little bit more cynical. Because for a while, I have liked championing the little guy. Games like Battlefield 5, I actually gave quite a lot of my attention. And Battlefield 5, I think, as it sits right now, is a pretty damn competent shooter. It's a very fun video game. Not as good as Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1, but goddamn, Battlefield 5 is a lot of fun. But I defend games like that, you know, that people were not defending. Back 4 Blood was one of those where people, you know, prior release, you know, there was reason to be cautious, and some people were wisely more cautious than me. But Back 4 Blood, I gave it an honest effort. In fact, I initially thought it was, like, amazing. But kind of like Halo Infinite, it's like the spirit was there, but god damn, a lot of the design decisions dragged that game down. And I'm not sure if Back 4 Blood can ever become the true sequel to Left 4 Dead, or successor to Left 4 Dead that it is claiming it is, without inherent structural redesigns. Like, you can't be a successor to Left 4 Dead without community-created content, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Or a server browser, you know, or a versus mode. Vehicle idea, the Cyclops. Halo Wars 2 designs with an HW jackhammer as sole offensive melee tool. Main utility, pick up and throw light and medium vehicles like Fuchsia. You pitched that before, like a Halo heavy loader type of like walker. Like you get into it and it's got like mechanical arms and it can just like pick things up and throw them. Dude, that's so fucking awesome. Could you imagine how cool a Minotaur game mode would be? Like, you know the Minotaur game mode from Halo 5 with the Mantis? It would be so awesome if the Mantis had, like, instead of guns, arms that could pick things up. Because you could have gameplay moments where you're chasing the survivors down the hallway and you just grab a pillar and throw it and block their exit. You could do stuff like that. Yes. Yes, I stuck him. I gotta start sticking more. Because it's actually pretty easy to stick people in this game. Did I just, did I just grab his energy sword? Did we talk about the emblem yet? We have not we have talked about the emblem. Basically, I was live streaming when the shenanigans went down, so I have only heard hearsay and conjecture, but it does not sound good, and once the stream is over, I am eager to check out what the hell is going on. I'm also trying to think of what you'd call that heavy loader, because typically, like, Halo vehicles, I'm trying to think. Like, aerial stuff is like Pelican, Falcon, Hornet, Wasp. Well, I guess it's kind of like the aircrafts, like the heavy aircrafts, or like the transport, I guess you could say, that seems to be more bird focused, whereas the offensive things, kind of like the Hornet, the Wasp, those are insects. Ground vehicles are typically like, you got your Warthog, you got your Bulldog, you've got which I'm talking about the Bulldog, the vehicle, which that does annoy me actually, that Halo now has like vehicles and weapons that are named, or it has weapons that are named after animals, because I'm like, no. UNSC vehicles are named after animals. Don't get weird. Don't screw up the tradition.
Leader nearing victory.
Infinity or 343 create the campaign. Create the campaign plus Infinity Ward and Treyarch focusing on matchmaking is the dream. To be honest, modern Treyarch, pre Black Ops 3, I'd agree, but after, you know, Black Ops 3 and onwards, I'd be like, I'd want Treyarch as far away from Halo as possible. Because they'd make it a shallow, crappy Overwatch clone with wall running and anything else they can rip off from other video games. Infinity Ward, I feel like they'd also... I mean, Infinity Ward has gotten a little bit more sandbox focused in recent years, but just in general, it's like, I don't know. I'd rather put more faith in a group of people who kind of like understand the sandbox design that Halo needs to go for. Can Halo really be considered a flagship title anymore? Yeah, it has a big fan base. It's not the Microsoft flagship title. It has not been for years. And it's not because of 343. It's something that I feel like a lot of people overlook. Why would it be Halo? Microsoft has Minecraft. You know? Let's run around with that armor for a little bit. No, we want Rumble Pit. I want to see Swords of Sanghelios style hunters. Swords of Sang... Oh, with the red? That would be interesting. Halo Wars equals Halo Wars 1. Cyclops was a heavy lift. Yeah, I understood what you meant by Halo Wars. It is a loader modified and adapted for combat in Halo Wars. Expanded to the vehicles with 2 throw types. Violent hurl, destroy enemy vehicles, or football toss, like throw allies. Something like that would be cool. Like a whoof, you know, you just throw something and it goes tumbling, or picking up a thing like an ally and tossing them. You gotta be joking. Okay.
Give points.
Wait.
Points give
Nope. Okay. Yeah. This is...
available.
I'm not playing any more Ninja Slayer. There's always something broken, always something that isn't right or straight up broken, or something that the community is against. In regards to Halo, it does kind of feel like it, doesn't it? Unfortunately. Treyarch plus Firefight? No, even then, because Treyarch, I feel like they've lost the magic touch for designing horde modes. It started with Black Ops 3 when monetization got introduced, as well as loadouts, and then since then it kind of like devolved into the Call of Duty Zombies mode becoming an objective attack mode, where you're entering the level to complete the story thing that isn't that interesting, and then getting out, and you have a bunch of superpowers and weapons you can kit out and customize before the match. I'm like, this just isn't Zombies anymore, man. I was literally talking about this earlier. Halo was a product of its time. Gaming has changed. There are more games than players. Society's changed. What's popular has changed. Yeah, it's one of those things where Halo, I don't think, will ever be the, like, it's back, guys. Like, no amount of changing Chief's armor will change that. You know, Halo's time in the sun is gone. And there are new things coming out to be excited about. I think the best thing Halo can do is try to foster its communities and keep them playing together. Kind of like Counter-Strike. How Counter-Strike's gotten very good at being able to kind of like appeal to its audience, and that audience kind of like grows the game itself by expanding its social systems, making it a lot easier to play games within Counter-Strike and stuff, and just keeping it relevant in Counter-Strike-y ways. You know, when Overwatch came out, Counter-Strike didn't move on to Counter-Strike Specialists, and it was like a hero shooter, you know? CSGO just kept puttering along. Granted, I think a lot of that has to do with Counter-Strike's, if we wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of it, it's at least ethically questionable monetization system. I'm so worried about the day that some lawyer starts to open up Counter-Strike. Because, like, the EA Battlefront 2 stuff, that kind of ushered in the era of the battle passes, I think, because everyone moved away from loot boxes. Not that loot boxes should be in games. They shouldn't. That's gambling. But I think it makes game designers, like, monetization systems have gotten a lot more aggressive lately. And I feel like it's because, like, they're becoming less creative. They're coming up with less ways to monetize things because they're afraid of pissing off people again. So they may mostly just stick with whatever people have decided is good.
Unable to calculate weapon origin.
Granted, actually, now that I say that out loud, that seems actually like common sense. Just like, yeah, if people like it, stick with it. I don't know, man. I am getting tired. I'm getting tired, so we're getting into rambly territory. Ask me a question, any question. You can have my unfiltered thoughts. Well, still kind of filtered, you know, but correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the Rushdown Gravity Hammer updated to apply physics to its user? Also thoughts on the retooled tank controls. I know what you're talking about. I think that's campaign only, the Rushdown Gravity Hammer. Because even the regular Gravity Hammer, it self-impulses the player in the campaign, but in multiplayer, no. It performs differently. Because, you know, that's good sandbox design. Having weapons perform completely differently depending on the game mode you're playing. Jesus. Do you think 343 also already fixed the game, but there's so much desync in the game that the updates haven't registered? No. Well, I mean, I guess, what do you mean by fixed the game? What does fixing the game mean to you, I guess?
Enemy halfway to victory.
Let me read some of these. No, they added the Rushdown and other stuff, too, to Big Team Battle. The Loot Cave sub-fragmentation. Got it. Okay. Okay, so the Rushdown Gravity Hammer, was it updated to have player impulses, or was it, like, a thing that was always the case, even in those offline modes? Lethargic Kitten says, you know what kind of monetization game I like? You buy the game for $60. The company makes their money on the game's actual merits. I like that, too. I would prefer not having a live service game. I would prefer the game came out with a ton of social features, and then the community made their own live service. And every now and then, they could release, like, a map pack, or a game mode, or something, and have a file browser, so that you can join up with people who have the same content as you.
Leader nearing victory.
Big Hoth says, I started on Reach and ODST, and I think 343 games really miss the potential of exploring the Halo universe properly. Things like set-piece battles, where you are one part of a larger thing, to invasion, all made the difference. Yeah, it's 343's focus on the Spartan experience, Spartan fantasy, Spartan abilities, Spartan like, because of that, they tend to forget that what made the Bungie campaigns, at least, so much fun, the Master Chief was actually one of the weakest parts of the Bungie Halo games. The best part was the scale of it, that you were kind of like one cog in this giant simulated battle experience. You got Marines fighting Covenant, and you're just kind of like keeping your head low and moving through. Where when 343 took over, they got very fixated on this idea of Spartans being what's most important. Not the giant sandbox battles, not humanity versus aliens. It's Spartan versus the aliens. And humanity and kind of fell by the wayside, and now the big set-piece battles that Halo is known for, they're not really anywhere. You think of, like, vehicles. Like, most of the time now in Halo, vehicle set pieces, there usually aren't a lot of humans, if any humans. And the Covenant vehicles, they're isolated to a single arena, and they don't really move around a lot. You know, you don't have large set-piece battles like the Storm with, you know, Marines driving mongoose around and a Scarab stomping around, because this is an intimate story about the Master Chief, a Spartan story. Deep Rock Galactic is so good. Yeah, Deep Rock is pretty good. Very good, actually. Bungie Spartans were super soldiers. 343 Spartans are superheroes. Yeah, there is definitely that case. I'd say even Bungie Spartans were the player. It was just like There was almost like this, you didn't need to artificially make Spartans seem bigger than life via cutscenes, because, well, why is the Master Chief so cool? It's not because he's a Spartan. It's because you're controlling him. Like, the Master Chief didn't take down that scarab. I did. I brought it to its knees with the help of these Marines, and then I personally boarded it and took it down. That started with Halo 4. I specifically remember 343 talking about the old Chief being a clunky old robot and their new Spartan armor being like a fighter jet. There's definitely, you know, I mean, we're past that era, though, of Halo. Where's your emblem and nameplate from? They are part of the Forerunner group. So they gave those out to us for our, you know, contributions, I guess you could say, to Halo Infinite. So you'll probably see also Ubernick with them.
I see a puddle.
Oh, God.
Shall I call for cleanup?
Come on, I just need 4 melee kills. Cutscenes only amplified your badass actions, says EMK. I'd say cutscenes, cool action things in cutscenes you want to kind of keep to a minimum, because here's kind of like the logic. Marcus Lato, actually, in his playthrough of Halo 5, he said it very well, because he did actually play Halo 5, and he had not great thoughts about it. He said it kind of broke a cardinal rule of the Halo series, which is if this is something a player could do in gameplay via cool action set piece or level, it should have been in the game. It shouldn't have been a cutscene. You think of like the Halo 5 opening cutscene. Nothing stopping that from being a pretty cool level. Could you imagine diving out of the Pelican yourself via gameplay? And then running down that hill yourself via gameplay? Jumping into the Phantom yourself? You know, or think of like that cutscene where they were all jumping through portals and stuff like that. That could have made for a cool level moment where you have to hop through portals. Probably going to be hopping off after this game, guys, because I am getting a little bit tired.
Overshield inbound.
Makes me want to go play Destiny 2. My only issue with Halo Infinite is the game feels so ass to play on mouse and keyboard versus controller. I play every other FPS game on mouse and keyboard, and I'm accurate. I feel like I'm getting outgunned by controller players in this game 24/7. That's definitely true. Also, I wasn't even looking. I was fighting out of the corner of my eye. How did I do? I lined up a sniper shot, waited for the guy to come, and then I looked away and just fired when I thought he was in the center, and then meleeed, praying and hoping that I won, but I didn't. I liked Halo 5's multiplayer. It wasn't a good Halo multiplayer, but I think it would have been cool as its own thing. Yeah, Halo 5's multiplayer was like an interesting kind of like marriage between Crysis and Halo. It's definitely not like the direction I'd take Halo in, but in the latest patch, 343 nuked the ability to play custom games offline as to not leak upcoming stuff. Really? So you just can't play custom games offline? Are you joking?
Enemy halfway to victory.
Jesus Christ.
Grapple shot acquired.
Do you remember when Frank O'Connor said a couple of years ago that he played something in Infinite that was even better than running down the Guardian in Halo 5? Do you think it even made it into retail? Well, running down the Guardian in Halo 5 wasn't actually that impressive. You just sprinted down a hallway with the gravity being altered.
Overshield.
So
Available.
whatever he played that was better than the Guardian in Halo 5, maybe it was the Gabrakan escape sequence, and that was better than the Guardian. Way better than the Guardian. What would have been cooler than running down the Guardian, sprinting down a hallway with altered gravity, is if you had to drive something. Like a warthog or something. And it was like a run of some kind. Custom games not being playable offline is under the known issues portion of the patch notes, so it's a bug that is being worked on. Okay. If it's a bug, then that's okay. If it is deliberately done to nuke people's abilities to, like, data mine, you know, upcoming content, while they work on a permanent fix, and that's pretty shitty, locking players out of content. What depresses me most is how at one point Halo was so popular that it was going to get a movie, MMOs, a Lego game, and now it's just this. Yeah, well, you know, Halo's time in the sun has come and gone, and now it's time for new things. Like Fortnite. Like John Cena.
Overshield. Available.
Like Fall Guys. I'm so excited that Fall Guys is going free to play. It should have been free to play from the get-go. I'm excited to play with Rebecca. I pitched it to her as, like, imagine those game shows. But, like, you're playing it and you have to knock everybody off. So we're very excited to play Fall Guys together. I noticed there wasn't really any Warthog Run type areas in Infinite, once again putting the focus on the player becoming the Master Chief. Yeah, 343's got this bad habit of like we're not making a classic Halo. This is a 343 game. We can't do a Warthog Run because there is interest in doing a Warthog Run internally, but it's, from what I've heard, it's usually shut down. It's a Halo game. Do a Warthog Run. The only one I can think of was the Scorpion crawl from The Road, but that, I feel like it was kind of betrayed by the weird vehicle rules of the Halo Infinite vehicles. Like, the Scorpion, it moves too fast and fires too slow for the amount of enemies that Scorpion crawl had. And it doesn't help that the vehicles are not fun to fight against. They can tank quite a few shots. It takes like a few shots to kill a ghost, if I remember right. God forbid you're up against a Wraith. So what you usually end up with in The Road was the Scorpion would be driving so fast that you'd only get 3 or 4 shots, which isn't enough to kill like anybody. And you'd be nearly driving into the enemies by that point. And so you'd have to, like, drive up, stop, shoot everyone one by one by one by one. Maybe move because a Wraith Mortar's coming. Keep firing, take a while to kill everything, and then you start driving to the next arena. All the while, the music is ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba, which implies movement, but you're not moving because it's moving too fast. The Scorpion, you're going to run past the enemies. It was just a very, I knew what they were trying to do, and I'm assuming the level designers and the people who came up with that also recognized the problems and didn't have enough time to kind of like correct, or maybe even the sandbox team was like, Lamau, no, we're not changing the way vehicles work. We don't have enough time. Hot take. The Scarab is overrated. It has neat ideas, plus multiple approaches to boarding it, but fights effectively boil down to board, backsmack, bugger off. Well, I'd say that's, you know, what's a fight with an elite? What, you pop the shields and then you kill him? You know? Well, of course, you gotta take it down. I think that's what's kind of fun about the Scarab. I'm not a fan of the OST, The Road. Sure, it's the Halo theme, but it's so short. The Road is awesome. I like it a lot. It's actually a slower tempo. It's not the exact Halo theme from the past, and it's got one extra note added to it, which seems silly saying that, but it actually does change a lot about the way that it sounds. Like the bum ba 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 bum bum ba 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 bum. Like there is one extra note in there that kind of like blends it a little bit better, and it is a slower tempo, which I think was designed to kind of match the cadence of a scorpion crawling, and it is a bit too short. I wish we heard a little bit more of it because it's really good. Alrighty, guys, that was a lot of fun. No, that's way too expensive. But this was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you all for joining. Next evolution video will be the evolution of the med kits. I hope you guys are excited about that. And thank you for joining the stream, everybody. I'm gonna call it for now. I'm a little bit tapped out, but this is a lot of good fun. So I shall see you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'll see you on the next video.